ආයුබෝවන් දරුවනේ මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා වරලත් ගණකාධිකාරී ආයතනය විසින් පවත්වනු ලබන ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆෝම් වැඩසටහන් මාලාවේ මීළඟ පරිච්ඡේදයයි. Okay, dear students, this is the next chapter of Transform program series which is conducted by CA Sri Lanka. Okay, the next chapter is long term decision making. දිගුකාලීන ආයෝජන තීරණ ගැනීම. Before we start the session, let me briefly explain why we need long-term decision making. This session explains long-term decisions should take into consideration the time value of money and what are the methods or techniques that we can use for investment appraisal, right? And because businesses, all the businesses may not want to invest in a project that may take a long time to earn the investment returns, right? That means අනාගතයේදී දැන් අපි ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරන්න ළමයි කිසිම ව්‍යාපාරයකට අවශ්‍ය නැහැ ඒකෙන් ලැබෙන රිටර්න් එක ගන්න ගොඩක් කල් යනවා නම් කිසිම ව්‍යාපාරයක් කැමති නැහැ ඒ වගේ ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරන්න, right? Moving on, why do we need to do investment appraisals? The first point explains when capital investment is made by an organization, it is normally for a substantial amount. It's normally for a substantial amount relative to the business of the organization. That's true. මොකද ළමයි ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරද්දී ප්‍රාග්ධන ව්‍යාපෘතිය ප්‍රාග්ධන ආයෝජනයකදී ඒක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ව්‍යාපාරයක ඉහළ වටිනාකමක් හා ප්‍රමාණයක් ගන්නවා. That's the first reason for why do we need to do investment appraisal. Then the second point explains, therefore an appraisal should be completed. Appraisal should be completed to enable the business to make a decision as to whether invest in a particular project. අපේ ගන්න ප්‍රාග්ධන ආයෝජනය අපි ඒක we need to appraisal should be completed, right? ඒ ප්‍රාග්ධන ව්‍යාපෘතිය අපි appraise කරන්න ඕන. The second point explains, therefore an appraisal should be completed to enable the business to make a decision as to whether invest in a particular project. That means අපි ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරනවා නම් ප්‍රාග්ධන ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරනවා නම් ඒ ප්‍රාග්ධන ව්‍යාපෘතිය ඇගීමක් කළ යුතුමයි අපි ඒ ව්‍යාපෘතිය දිගටම කරගෙන යනවද නැද්ද කියලා බලන්න. The second reason for why do we need to do investment appraisal is explained by the second point. And when it's come to the third point, the organization need to ensure that it is using the resources available to the business in order to obtain maximum benefits from them. That means අපේ ව්‍යාපාරයක තියෙන සම්පත් ළමයි resources උපරිම ප්‍රතිලාභයක් ලැබෙන විදිහට යොදවන්න නම් මොන ව්‍යාපෘතියද අපි ආයෝජනය කරන්න කියලාත් අපි බලන්න අපිට අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ investment appraisals, right? Then so we will now look at the different methods that senior management might use to enable the decision to invest or not to be made. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ළමයි ඕනම ව්‍යාපාරයක strategic decisions උපාය මාර්ගික තීරණ basically ගන්නේ අපේ top management එක organization එකක top management එක. Then they can use different methods, right, that might use to enable the decisions to invest or not to be made. Moving on, capital investment appraisal methods or techniques, right? All the capital investment appraisal techniques we can basically classify it into two aspects or two categories, right? The first one is non-discounting methods and the second one is discounting methods, right? non-discounting methods and discounting methods. වට්ටම් නොකළ ක්‍රම සහ වට්ටම් කළ ක්‍රම. Right? Then why we need this wording, discounting, right? This is basically linked with the time value of money. Time value of money, right? Before I explain this one again, I need to give you a brief explanation about time value of money, right? Okay, the time value of money, mudale kala watinakama. The idea that money available today is worth more than the same amount of money in the future, right? What it explains, the idea that money available today, right? The money available today, right? Let's see, take as example rupees 100,000 today worth more than the same amount of money, that means that particular rupees 100,000 in the future, right? Right? This is the basic understanding of time value of money, right? අපි ළමයි මේ දැන් අද රුපියල් ලක්ෂකින් කරන්න පුළුවන් දේ අපිට තව අවුරුදු 3කින් කරන්න බෑනේ, right? That's the nature of time value of money, right? That means the purchasing power of rupees 100,000 today is worth more than the purchasing power of rupees 100,000 in future, right? මෙතන 100,000 වලට වඩා අඩු ගාණක් තමයි එන්නේ, right? මෙතන 100,000 එන්නේ නැහැ. මම මේ concept එක පැහැදිලි කරන්න තමයි මෙතන 100,000 දැම්මේ. මෙතන අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම 100,000 වලට අඩු ගාණක් තමයි වෙන්නේ. මොකද අපිට අද ලක්ෂකින් කරන්න පුළුවන් දේ නෙමෙයි after 2 or 3 years අපිට ඒක කරන්න බෑ, right? That's the nature of time value of money. To overcome this effect of time value of money, right? Okay, to overcome the effect of time value of money, we can use two components. The first one is we can use interest, we received interest, and the cost of capital. Right? To overcome the effect of time value of money, the businesses use these two components, interest, poliya, saha, cost of capital means pragdana piriwaya, right? Interest, what is the meaning of that? If we deposit money in a bank, we will receive some interest for that, right? Then we can overcome the time value of money because let's we take year 1, 2, 3, right? If we deposit rupees 50,000 today, that if we take today as a 0, 50,000 today, right? After the first year, after the year 1, we received 50,000 plus interest, right? After we move into the year 2, we received some amount more than to that, right? That's why I told you the interest component. The interest is a component that we can use to overcome the effect of time value of money. මොකද අපි මෙතන 50,000ක් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරා, අපි ඩිපොසිට් කරාට පස්සේ අපිට එන්න ලැබෙන ගාණ වැඩි වෙනවා. අපිට පළවෙනි අවුරුද්ද අවසානයේදී 50,000ට පොලියකුත් එක්ක තමයි හම්බ වෙන්නේ, right? අපි 50,000 ඒ විදිහටම අවුරුද්ද අවසානයේ පළවෙනි අවුරුද්ද අවසානයේ අපි හිතන්නකෝ අද නම් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරේ ඊළඟ අවුරුද්ද අවසානයේත් අපිට 50,000ම එහෙමම අපේ සේවිං account එකේ තියෙනවා නම් it doesn't consider the time value of money, right? Then when it's come to the cost of capital, you know the capital component of a business, right? If I write here capital, you know you can raise the capital for the business under two methods, debt financing or equity financing. Equity financing, right? We can basically use debt financing and equity financing to raise the capital within the businesses or the organizations, right? The cost of capital measures, right, the cost that a business incurs to finance its operations, right? අපි debt financing එකකින්ද capital එක raise කරන්නේ, equity financing එකකද, මේ දෙකට යන cost එක, right? මේ දෙකට යන cost එක තමයි cost of capital කියලා අපි identify කරගන්නේ, right? Debt financing means we borrowing money from outside, right? Equity financing means we raise the finance through the investors, right? Through the investors within the organization, right? Then that's why we can use this interest and cost of capital to overcome the effect of time value of money. මේ lesson එකේ ඉස්සරහට යනකොට ඔයාලට තේරෙයි මේ wordings දෙකේ තියෙන වැදගත්කම මොකක්ද කියලා, right? Okay. Under the capital investment appraisal methods, these two methods, that means non-discounting methods, does not consider the time value of money and these discounting methods consider the time value of money, right? non-discounting methods වල මෙන්න මේ methods දෙක අපි මේ methods දෙක යටතේ අපේ ආයෝජන ඇගීම් කරනකොට මුදලේ කාල වටිනාකම consider කරන්නේ නැහැ. Under the discounting methods, මේ methods දෙක IRR and NPV, we are going to discussing further these two all these methods in upcoming slides, right? These two methods, these discounting methods consider the time value of money, right? That's the basic difference of these two classifications, right? Okay. Now we are moving to the first method under the non-discounting method, that is payback method. පිළිගෙවුම් කාල ක්‍රමය, right? What is payback period? The payback period is the time that required for the total of the cash inflows a capital investment project to equal the total of the cash outflows, right? What is the meaning of that? පිළිගෙවුම් කාලය කියලා කියන්නේ ප්‍රාග්ධන ආයෝජන ව්‍යාපෘතියක, right? මුදල් ඇතුළට ගැලීම් වල එකතුව, that means the cash total of cash inflows. මුදල් පිටතට ගැලීම් වල එකතුවට සමාන වීමට ගතවන කාලය. That means the total of cash inflows equals to the total of cash outflows, right? The period, the time that is required for the total cash inflows of a capital investment project to equal the total cash outflows. අපිට මේ ආයෝජන ව්‍යාපෘතියේ මුදල් ඇතුළට ගැලීම් වල එකතුවට මුදල් පිටතට ගලා යෑම එකතුවට සමාන වීමට ගතවන කාලයට අපි කියනවා payback period එක කියලා, right? Before the payback period can be calculated, management must have details of the following. The first one is the initial cash outflow. The initial cash outflow means ව්‍යාපෘතියේ මූලික මුදල් පිටතට ගැලීම. Right? That's the initial cost of the project. An estimate of any future cash inflows or savings. Right? Estimates of any future cash inflows or savings. That means ඇස්තමේන්තු ගත අනාගත මුදල් ලැබීම් හෝ ඉතිරි කිරීම. Why we use this wording of estimates, right? When we are investing a particular project, right? We know in the after 1 or 2, 3 years, they may have some future cash inflows and outflows within that project, right? අපිට අපි ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කරාම ළමයි අපිට cash inflows outflows තියෙන්න පුළුවන් එන ඉදිරි වර්ෂවලදී, right? එතකොට why we use this word of estimates, we cannot exactly say that what is the amount of future cash inflows due to this project. අපිට හරියටම කියන්න බෑ future cash inflow එක කොච්චරද කියලා. That's why we estimate that, we projected that, right? Then comparing these two details, right, the initial cash outflow and the estimated any net cash flows, net future cash flows, we can compare these two in order to calculate the payback method. අපිට මේ දෙක compare කරලා අපේ ව්‍යාපෘතියේ මූලික මුදල් පිටතට ගලා යාම සහ අනාගත මුදල් ලැබීම් හෝ ඉතිරි කිරීම compare කරලා සංසන්දනය කරලා අපිට පුළුවන් පිළිගෙවුම් කාලය ගණනය කරන්න. Okay. This is the example for calculating payback period, right? Ruby LLC is considering a new project which will require an initial investment of 60 million rupees. The estimated profits, right? Estimated profits before depreciation. Before depreciation are as follows, right? Why we take this before depreciation, right? In the payback period, we only consider the cash flows, right? That means cash items, right? But depreciation is not a real cash flow for an organization. It's a non-cash item. Depreciation කියන්නේ ළමයි මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක මුදලින් වෙන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. It's basically we calculated the depreciation based on the personal judgment නේ. ඒ නිසා ඒක මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයක් නෙමෙයි. හැබැයි අපි පිළිගෙවුම් කාලය ගණනය කරද්දී අපි consider කරන්නේ සලකා බලන්නේ cash flows, only the cash flows. So in here this is not a concern for that because these profits are calculated before depreciation, right? If it's here, if it says after depreciation, the estimated profits after depreciation, what you have to do is you need to add back that depreciation amount to the particular profit figures. මෙතන after depreciation කියලා දීලා තිබ්බනම් මේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ අස්තමේන්තුගත ලාභයන් after depreciation කියලා කිව්වොත් එතකොට ඔයාලට මේ depreciation amount එක share ප්‍රමාණය මෙතනට ආපහු අදාළ profit figure එකට add back කරන්න වෙනවා. But here it's not need because these estimated profits are calculated before these estimated profits before depreciation තමයි මේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ, right? Then year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The payback period is calculated by considering the cumulative estimated profits before depreciation. Cumulative estimated profits කියන්නේ සමුච්චිත අස්තමේන්දුගත ලාභය, right? Let's see how we can calculate the cumulative net cash flows or the cumulative estimated profits, right? These are the estimated net cash flows. This is extracted from here and we can calculate the cumulative net cash inflows. In here the first one we take as it is because මෙතනට තව එකතු වෙන දේවල් නැති නිසා, right? Then we can take year 2 cumulative cash inflows by adding these two, 20,000 plus 30,000, then we can come up with the 50,000. 50,000 means this is given as removing 1,000. That means 20 million plus 30 million. Then we can take the cumulative net cash flow for the year 2 as 50 million. Likewise, here 50 million plus 40 million, right? Then we can take 90 million, right? Likewise, we can add back the next year cash inflow to the previous year cumulative net cash inflow, then we can easily take the cumulative net cash inflows. අපිට සමුච්චිතගේ ගන්න පුළුවන් පළවෙනි අවුරුද්දේ 20 මිලියන් ගත්තා නම් ඒ මිලියන 20ට අපි දෙවැනි අවුරුද්දේ මිලියන 30 එකතු කරාට පස්සේ අපිට සමුච්චිතගේ ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Then the first step of calculating payback period is we need to calculate the cumulative net cash inflow. Right? We know the investment of 60 million rupees is paid back in 3 years. Year 3. Now our initial investment is 60 million rupees. Right? We know payback period එකේදී අපි කතා කරේ අපේ මුදල් ගලා ඒම් මුදල් ගලා යෑම් සහ මුදල් ගලා ඒම් එකිනෙකට සමාන වන time එක. Right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ මේ initial investment එක මෙන්න මේ initial investment එක cover කරගන්න කොච්චර කාලයක් යනවද කියන එක. Right? Initial investment this is ne 60 million rupees ne. Then how many years we want to cover this initial investment? මේ initial investment එක cover කරගන්න අපිට පළවෙනි අවුරුද්දේදී බෑ. එහෙනම් පළවෙනි අවුරුද්දත් යනවා. දෙවෙනි අවුරුද්දේදීත් බෑ because it's only 50 million. Now in year 3. Now in this point in this year we can cover our initial investment. මෙතනදී තමයි අපිට ඒක cover කරගන්න වෙන්නේ. Right? But in here there is a 40 million rupees. Right? The first year, after first year, out of this 60 million rupees, we can cover 20 million. Then we can cover after in the year 2, we can cover the 30 million. Then altogether 50 million we can cover from up to year 2. දෙවැනි අවුරුද්ද වෙද්දී අපිට 50 million මිලියන 50ක් cover කරගන්න පුළුවන්. But it remains now 50 million is okay, but another 10 million is outstanding, right? තව මිලියන 10ක් තියෙනවා. But year 3 the net cash inflow is estimated net cash inflow is rupees 40 million. අපිට මේ මිලියන 40ම අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ මිලියන 10 cover කරගන්න. Right? Then what we have to do is we can take the 2 years. Exactly we can say that may 60 million එක cover කරගන්න අවුරුදු දෙකක් යනවා. Then the 2 years is correct. Then out of this 40 million we need only 10 million. Out of 40 million we need only 10 million rupees to cover the initial investment of the project. Right? That means 2 years plus 40 out of 40 million we need 10 million, right? Then we need to multiply this one from 12 months because we are in here we are calculating a period, right? 40ට 10ක් cover කරගන්න 40න් 10ක් cover කරගන්න කොච්චර මාස ගාණක් යනවද කියලා because අපි දන්නවා අවුරුද්දක් යන්නේ නැහැ කියලා, right? Then we can take the answer as 2 years and after calculating this one you can get the 3 months approximately not approximately, exactly you can take the answer as 2 years and 3 months, right? This is the answer for this question, right? But there is a two concern, right? In here it says, if on other hand the cash flows are received at the end of year, then the payback period would be 3 years, right? In here think that there are two concerns, that is that investment, that the cash flow are receiving evenly throughout the year and received at the end of the year. There are two concerns. In here we need to consider that these estimated cash inflows, ඒක තමයි ගානේදී කියන ගොඩක් වෙලාවට, we can say that evenly throughout the year this is cash inflows receiving evenly throughout the year or received at the end of the year, right? If we take the first one, this cash inflows receiving evenly throughout the year, අවුරුද්ද පුරාවටම ලැබෙනවා නම් තමයි ළමයි මේ උත්තරේ ගන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අපි දන්නවා මේ 10 මිලියන් කියන එක, එහෙනම් අපිට weightage එකක් මෙතන ගන්න පුළුවන් මේ විදිහට 10 මිලියන් කියන එක මාස 3ක් යද්දී, ඒ අදාළ පීරියඩ් එකේ මාස 3ක් යද්දී අපිට gain කරගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. හැබැයි those cash flows are received at the end of the year. මේ හිතන්න ළමයි මේ 40 මිලියන්ම අපිට ලැබෙන්නේ තුන්වෙනි අවුරුද්දේ අවසානයේ, at the end of the year 3 නම්, right? At the end of the year 3 නම් what happened, we need to wait until the end of year 3 to cover these 10 million. අපිට මේ තුන්වෙනි අවුරුද්ද අවසාන වෙනකම් ඉන්න වෙනවා මේ 10 million එක cover කරන්න, right? Then there is a two answers when that cash flows are receiving evenly throughout the year. The answer for that is this one, right? But those cash flows are received at the end of year, the payback period would be the 3 years. This is the answer, right? In here it's not mentioned here. No, it's not mentioned specifically. It's evenly throughout the year, or those cash flows are received at the end of the year, right? But ඕනම ගානක මේ දෙකෙන් එකක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම දෙනවා කොහොමද cash flows receive වෙන්නේ කියලා, right? Using the payback period to appraise capital investment projects, right? There are two ways in which the payback period can be used to appraise projects. The first one is if two or mutually exclusive projects, two or more mutually exclusive projects, right? Mutually exclusive projects කියන්නේ මොනවද? අන්‍යෝන්‍ය වශයෙන් බහිෂ්කාර වූ ව්‍යාපෘති දෙක හෝ ඊට වැඩි ගණනක්. අන්‍යෝන්‍ය වශයෙන් බහිෂ්කාර වූ ව්‍යාපෘති කියලා කියන්නේ we cannot initiate those two or more projects together, right? අපිට ඒ project එකක් හරි දෙකක් හරි ඊට වඩා වැඩි ගණනක් හරි තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ඔක්කොම එකට initiate කරන්න බෑ, එකට පටන් ගන්න බෑ, right? That's the meaning of අන්‍යෝන්‍ය වශයෙන් බහිෂ්කාර වූ ව්‍යාපෘති. ඒ කියන්නේ mutually exclusive projects. We need to select one project out of those two or more projects, right? Under consideration, the usual decision is to accept the project with the shortest payback period. දෙකක් හරි ඊට වඩා වැඩි ගණනක් හරි තියෙනවා නම් අඩුම පිළිගැවුම් කාලයක් සහිත ව්‍යාපෘතිය පිළිගන්න එක තමයි usual decision එක සාමාන්‍ය ක්‍රමය. And the second one is if the management of the company have a payback period limit, then only projects with the payback periods which are less than this limit would be considered for investment, right? අපිට payback අපේ තියෙනවා නම් පිළිගෙවුම් කාල පරිච්ඡේදය සඳහා සීමාවක්. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා නම් අපේ පිළිගෙවුම් කාල පරිච්ඡේද සීමාව 2 years. අවුරුදු 2යි කියලා. ඒ 2 years වලට වඩා අඩු කාල සීමාවක් අපි සලකනවා. ඊට වඩා අඩු කාල සීමාවක් පිළිටන ව්‍යාපෘතිය පමණක් ආයෝජනය සඳහා සලකා බලනවා. Okay. This is the second example for payback period in project appraisal, right? Suppose Ruby LLC has a payback period limit of 2 years, right? There is a limit. There is a limit that is 2 years and is considering investing one of the following projects, both of which require an initial investment of 4 million rupees. Cash flows accrue evenly throughout the year, not at the end of years, right? Evenly throughout the year මේ cash inflow එක අපිට ලැබෙනවා, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අවුරුද්ද පුරාවට ලැබෙනවා, right? There are two mutually exclusive projects. We can select either project A or B as the best one. We cannot invest in both A and B projects. මේ දෙකේම invest කරන්න බෑ. මේ දෙකෙන් හොඳ මේක ගන්න ඕන. මොකද these two are mutually exclusive projects, right? Required, calculate the payback period of the two projects and state which is the most acceptable project, right? We will calculate that. We are going to state which is the most acceptable project out of those projects A and B, right? First we need to calculate the payback period of project A, then we can calculate the project B, then we can compare and select the most appropriate project, right? Let's see the whiteboard, and first we will take the project A, right? This is the year and cash inflows, right? We need to take what? Cumulative cash inflows, right? It's also rupees, right? This is the project A, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Year 1, 100,000. $150,000, again 150,000. I was telling these amounts, removing the 1,000, right? Then cumulative cash inflows here 100,000 and year 2 300,000 and 400,000 and 50,000 and 700,000, right? Hope you got the point of calculating cumulative cash inflows. 100,000 ගත්තා, ඒකට 200,000 එකතු කරලා තමයි 300,000 එන්නේ, right? Then our initial investment is 4 million. Okay, now we can say that our 4 million investment, 4 million rupees initial investment cover up in the year 3, right? Year 1 100,000, 200,000 and 100,000 all together 400,000. That means by adding 1000 this is the 40 million. Then the answer is the payback period for project A is three years, right? We can take as exact years, number of years, right? Then we need to calculate the payback period for the project B, right? Let's see, take the project B, right? In here the year, cash inflow, and cumulative cash inflow. Right? Year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has 200,000, 180,000, 120,000, again 100,000 and 100,000, right? Those are the cash inflows, and we can take the cumulative cash inflows like first 200,000 and then 380,000 and 500,000 and 600,000 and 700,000, right? Those are the cumulative cash inflows, right? We know our initial investment is rupees 4 million, right? Then the first, after the first year 1, it covers the 200,000, right? We need to cover up by removing this 1000 value, we need to cover the initial cost of 400,000. That means removing the 1000 values, we need to cover the 400,000. The first, after year 1, we can cover up 200,000 out of this, 200,000, right? And then after the year 2, another 180,000 rupees can be covered, right? Altogether 380,000 rupees can be covered. We can look at here, we can confirm that by looking at the cumulative cash inflow as well, right? Now out of this 400,000 or the 4 million rupees, right, 380,000 rupees can be covered after the 2 years. After when it's come to the year 2, we can cover up 308,000 rupees out of 400,000, and there is a remaining balance that is 20,000, right? තව 20000ක් අපිට cover කරගන්න ඉතුරු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒක cover කරගන්න වෙන්නේ කොහෙන්ද? ඒක cover කරගන්න වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ year 3 එකේ cash inflow එකේ. Right? We know now the payback period for the project B would be exactly, we know 2 years would be there, plus now we need to take here 20,000 from 120,000 should be multiplied by 12 months, right? 12 months. Then all together we can take the answer 2 years and 2 months, right? by solving this part we can take 2 months and exactly 2 years also there, right? Then what happened? Now project A has a 2 years of if we take project A has a payback period of 3 years and project B has a payback period of 2 years and 2 months. Now we go back to our lesson, our calculation, right here. Now here it says, it asks state which is the most acceptable project, and there is a, I know at the very beginning of this example I told that there is a period limit, payback period limit, that is 2 years, right? And when it's come to the project A, the payback period of project A is 3 years and the payback period for project B is 2 years and 2 months. Since that particular company, that is Ruby LLC, has the payback period limit, that is 2 years, right? After looking at the solution of this project A and B, after calculating the payback periods of project A and B, neither project should be invested in, right? Why? Both payback periods are greater than 2 years. මෙතන ළමයි අපිට payback period limit එකක් දීලා තියෙනවානේ 2 years කියලා. ඔයාලට මතක ඇති අතන conditions දෙකක් තිබ්බා. එහෙම period එකක් තියෙනවා නම් payback period limit එකක් තියෙනවා නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ payback period limit එකට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕන අපේ consider කරන අපි සලකා බලන ව්‍යාපෘතියේ payback period එක පිළිගවුම් කාලය එම payback period limit එකට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕන, right? But in here මේ දෙකේම project A එකේ 3 years කියලා අවිල්ලා තියෙනවා, right? And project B එකේ 2 years plus 2 months අවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. Then මේකෙන් දෙකෙන් එකක්වත් under consideration of the payback period limit මේ දෙකෙන් එකක්වත් අපිට accept කරන්න බෑ. But if Ruby LLC did not consider the payback period limit, it's better to select the project B because it gives the shorter period of time rather than the project A. අපි Ruby LLC company එක Ruby LLC consider කරන්නේ නැත්නම් period payback period limit එක එයාලට පුළුවන් project B එක accept කරන්න. මොකද අපිට ඒ වගේ mutually exclusive projects දෙකක් තියෙද්දි ඔයාලට මතක ඇති short period එක එන project එක තමයි අපි accept කරන්නේ. So Ruby LLC can accept the project B rather than going for a project A, right? Let's before start the second method under the non-discounting method, that is ARR method, there are some drawbacks within the payback period, right? You can refer more than I have mentioned here, right? The basically payback period, the one of drawbacks within the payback period is it does not consider the value of an investment and the return on an investment as well. ඒක ළමයි අපේ investment එකේ වටිනාකම සහ ඒකෙන් හම්බෙන ප්‍රතිලාභය ගැන සලකා බලන්නේ නැහැ. Only the time they considered, right? And another drawback one of drawbacks from the of the payback period is it does not consider the time value of money, right? මුදලේ කාල වටිනාකම් බලන්නේ නැහැ. අපි දෙවනි අවුරුද්ද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මතක ඇති in here මෙතන දෙවනි අවුරුද්දේ හම්බෙන cash inflow එක 200,000. We take this 200,000 as it is, right? අපි මේ 200,000 ඒ විදිහටම ගත්තානේ. එතකොට ඇත්තටම 200,000 වල අද වටිනාකම තමයි අපි මෙතන ගන්න ඕන හරිනම්, right? But the time value of money in the payback period, it does not consider the time value of money, right? And another one of drawbacks of the payback period is it ignores the all the cash inflows and return after the payback is achieved. ඒ කියන්නේ payback period එක achieve වුණාට පස්සේ තියෙන cash inflows ignore කරනවා නොසලකා හරිනවා right those kind of some of drawbacks are there right then we will move to the second method under the non discounting method ARR method right the ARR the full form of ARR is accounting rate of return that means accounting rate of return that means ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය right the ARR method that means accounting rate of return accounting rate of return means ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය right the accounting rate of return method also called the return on capital employed ROCE method or the return on investment method ROI of appraising a project is used to estimate the accounting rate of return that the project should be yield right that means we can identify this ARR method in another two methods that means return on capital employed and return on investment method කියලා කියන්නෙත් ළමයි මේ ARR method එකටම තමයි right යෙදවූ ප්‍රාග්ධන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය that means return on capital employed ROCE ආයෝජන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය return on investment ROI මේ දෙකෙන්ම මේ වචන දෙකෙන්ම මේ අනුපාත දෙකෙන්ම හඳුන්වන්න පුළුවන් අපිට ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය right ව්‍යාපෘතියක් විසින් ඉපැයිය යුතු ඵලදාව ඇස්තමේන්තු කිරීම සඳහා භාවිතා කරන්නා වූ ඇගයීම් ක්‍රමයක් තමයි accounting rate of return කියලා කියන්නේ that's why it here says used to estimate the accounting rate of return that the project should yield ව්‍යාපෘතියක් විසින් ඉපැයිය යුතු ඵලදාව ඇස්තමේන්තු ගත කිරීම සඳහා භාවිතා කරන්නා වූ ඇගයීම් ක්‍රමයක් right if it exceed the target rate of return right we know all the organization have target rate of return අපිට ඇස්තමේන්තු ගත ඉලක්කගත ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතයක් හැම organization එකටම තියෙනවා right the decision rule is that if it exceed the target rate of return the project will be undertaken right we know all organization has target rate of return right target rate of return if the ARR accounting rate of return exceeds the target rate of return of a particular company that project will be undertaken right ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිලාභයට අනුපාතය අපේ ඉලක්කගත ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය ඉක්මවනවා නම් ඒ කියන්නේ simply කිව්වොත් අපේ ඉලක්කගත ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතයට වඩා ARR ඒ කියන්නේ ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය වැඩි නම් අපිට ඒ ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එක accept කරන්න පුළුවන් ඒක තමයි that's the decision rule for ARR method right in here there are some formulas right the most widely used definition or the most widely used formula for ARR is this one right widely mostly used කරන්නේ මේක average annual profit from investment should be divided by average investment and multiplied by 100 to take the percentage here we this is a rate no මේක rate එකක් නිසා අපිට percentage එකක් විදියට ගන්න ඕන then ARR කියලා කියන්නේ ARR මෙතන most widely used formula for ARR is average annual profit from investment should be divided by average investment and multiplied by 100 right ඒ කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය වාර්ෂික ආයෝජන ප්‍රතිලාභ සාමාන්‍ය ආයෝජනයෙන් බෙදලා 100න් වැඩි කරන්න ඕන right then unfortunately there are several different formulas of ARR as well තව ගොඩක් මේ තියෙන්නේ අපිට තව ඒ කියන්නේ it's based on the nature of the question right අපේ question එකේ ස්වභාවය අනුව සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට මේ method දෙකෙන් එකක් use කරන්නත් වෙනවා the first one is estimated total profit should be divided by estimated initial investment and should be multiplied by 100 and the second one is estimated average profits should be divided by estimated initial investment and multiplied by the 100, right? Okay. Now we have a question. Arrow wants to buy a new item of equipment, right? Two models of equipment are available, one with a slightly higher capacity and greater reliability than the other. The expected cost and profit of each item as follow, right? They have two items, two item of equipments, right? X, equipment item X and equipment item Y. එයාලට equipment item දෙකක් තියෙනවලු. ඒකෙන් එකක් capacity එකෙන් and reliability එකෙන් ගොඩක් වැඩි අනිත් එකට වඩා, right? What we need to do is state whether equipment item Y should be selected if the company's target ARR is 30%, right? අපෙන් අහන්නේ company එකේ target ARR එක ඒ කියන්නේ ඉලක්කගත ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය 130යි නම් අපි Y equipment Y කියන එක select කරගත යුතුද නැද්ද කියලා, right? In here the disposal value, in here it mentioned there is no any disposal value for equipment item X as well as equipment item Y, right? ARR is measured as the average annual profit after depreciation, right? After depreciation divided by the average net book value of the asset, right? Then we can hear the solution as well, right? I'll explain how it's calculate the ARR for this project, right? The total profit, we need to take first total profit of the life of equipment, right? We need to take the total profit over life of equipment, right? We need to calculate the item X and item Y as well, right? item X එකයි item Y එකයි දෙකේම මුළු ලාභය අපේ තියෙන over the period, over the life of equipment, we need to calculate the total profit. We need to calculate the total profit before depreciation and after depreciation, right? Because in here it says, right, ARR is measured as the average annual profit after depreciation, right? But here the profits are given before depreciation, right? ෂෙයා කරන්න කලින් ලාභයන් තමයි මේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ. හැබැයි the company policy is ARR is calculating by using the annual profit after depreciation. ෂෙයා කරාට පස්සේ එන ලාභයන් use කරලා තමයි ARR එක measure කරන්නේ මේ company එකේ. So the total profit, we need to first take total profit over the life of equipment before depreciation and after depreciation. Before depreciation it already calculated, it already given in the question, right? When it's come to the equipment item of X, right? These are the profit. These are the profits before depreciation. So we can take the all profits over the 5 years, right? Over the 5 years, the equipment item X, what is the profit before depreciation, right? We can take the summation of all together, all profits. මේ ඔක්කොගම එකතු අරගෙන අපිට බලන්න පුළුවන් item X එකේ ෂෙයා කරන්න කලින් ලාභය කොච්චරයිද කියලා, right? Here we can take 50, 50, 100, 130, 150 and 160 rupees, right? And here we can take the profits before depreciation of item Y is 100, 160, 220 and 280,000, right? These are the profits before depreciation altogether, right? Then we need to take it here 100 the item X, the profits before depreciation is for item X is rupees 160,000 and profit before depreciation of item Y is 280,000, right? Now we need to take profit after depreciation because the company policy is using the profit after depreciation for calculating of ARR, right? So how we can get the after depreciation value? We need to calculate the depreciation for item X and item Y in order to take the profits after depreciation, right? In item X, you know the cost of that equipment is 80,000 and this should be divided by useful lifetime of 5 years. Then you can easily take the 16,000 as the depreciation value of item X. Now if we take the depreciation value for item Y, you can take the cost of that equipment, that is 150,000, should be divided by the useful lifetime also the 5 years. Then you can take the 30,000 as the depreciation value for item Y, right? Now this is the profit before depreciation, right? මේක ඇතුලේ ළමයි මේ profit එක ඇතුලේ depreciation තියෙනවා. sorry, depreciation නැහැ, right? මේ profit එක ඇතුලේ ළමයි depreciation include වෙලා නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ depreciation අඩු වෙලා නැහැ, right? We are calculating profit after deducting the depreciation නේ. අපි share ටික අඩු කරනවානේ වියදමක් විදිහට, right? In here the company policy is also when they are calculating ARR, they use the annual profits after depreciation, right? That means they need to deduct the depreciation value from this profit before depreciation profit, right? මේ profit එක ඇතුලේ depreciation නැති නිසා අපිට මෙන්න මේ depreciations මේකෙන් අයින් කරලා after depreciation profits calculate කරන්න වෙනවා. Then you can take the all cash inflows, all the profits for the year by year. ඕගලන්ට ඕන නම් year by year මේ 16,000 අඩු කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. Or else you can calculate the after depreciation profit for item X into that means 16,000 into 5, right? For the 5-year period, total depreciation for the item X is 80,000, right? That means cost ne, right? You need to deduct 80,000 rupees from here. Then you can calculate the profit after depreciation as 80,000 rupees, right? And in here, item Y, the profit before depreciation is 280,000, right? In here the depreciation value for item Y is 30,000 per year, right? You can take the total depreciation for year all 5 years, right? ඔක්කොම මේ depreciation එක එතකොට වෙන්නේ 1,50,000. Because we can calculate the total depreciation for the item Y as 30,000 into 5. That means 150,000. That is the cost of the equipment, right? මොකද අවුරුදු 5 අවසානයේදී ඒක ෂේ වෙලා ඉවර වෙනවනේ. Then you can remove here the 150,000. Then you can take the after depreciation profits for item X and item Y as 80,000 as item in item X, 130,000 in item Y. Then we need to calculate average annual profit after depreciation. Why we need to calculate average annual profit after depreciation? this is the one of item, right, one of the component of our formula to calculating ARR, right. Then average annual profit after depreciation, right, सामान्य वार्षिक लाभය from the investment, सामान्य वार्षिक लाभය after depreciation, right. ෂය කිරීමෙන් පසුව සාමාන්‍ය වාර්ෂික ප්‍රතිලාභය වෙන්නේ එතකොට කීයද ළමයි? How we can get this 16,000? You know the after depreciation profit is 80,000. You need to divide this one by 5 years. Why we divide this 80,000 from 5 years? Because we need to calculate the average annual profit. This profit is for all 5 years, right. We need to calculate the average profit, then you need to divide the total profit after depreciation by 5 years in order to get the average annual profit after depreciation. Also in here also you need to take this 130,000 should be divided by 5 years in order to take the annual profit after depreciation. 80,000 කියන්නේ 1,30,000 කියන්නේ ළමයි අවුරුදු 5ටම profit එක අපි මේක බෙදන්න ඕන 5න් මොකද in order to get the සාමාන්‍ය වාර්ෂික ලාභය ගන්න නම් ළමයි අවුරුදු ගාණින් බෙදන්න ඕන. That's why we have divided we divided this amount as amount from 5 years, right. Now one component have figure out 16,000 and 20,000, right. These are the components of formula. මේ දෙක ඕන. ඊළඟට we need to calculate the average investment. How we can calculate the average investment? Capital cost plus disposal value should be divided by 2. The capital cost for item X is 80,000, right. The disposal value is 0, that has also given. Then you need to divide it by 2, then you can take the 40,000 as the average investment of item X, right. If we take the item Y, right, in item Y you can take here the capital cost of item Y is 150,000 plus there is a 0 disposal value, and these two figures should be adding together and should be divided by 2, then you can take the 75,000 as the average investment of item Y, right. Now we have figured out all the component of the formula. අපි දැන් formula එකට ඕනම component දෙකේ figures දෙක අපි අරගත්තා, average annual profit after depreciation and average investment, right. Now what you have to do is the formula for ARR is what? Average annual profit after depreciation should be divided by average investment, should be then after dividing the average annual profit after depreciation by average investment, you can multiply it by 100. Now we can take the ARR for both item X and item Y. Here average annual profit after depreciation is 16,000, right. Here for the limit of time spacing I only take the 6 by removing the 1,006, and average investment is 40 into 100. Then you can take the answer as 40%, right. Here also you can take average annual profit after depreciation is 26 and the average investment is 75 into 100. Now you can take the answer as the 34.7%, right. Now we have calculated the ARR method, sorry, now we have calculated the annual rate of return for item X and item Y. You know in the question it is given that the target rate of return in the business in the very beginning of the ARR method, I told you that there are in the all the companies they have target rate of return. In here, what is the target rate of return is 30%. ඉලක්කගත ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය 30යි. right? item X එකේ 40%, item Y එකේ 34.7%. right? Then what is the decision rule is that, right? Decision rule is target rate of return. If the annual rate of return exceeds the target rate of return, that project can be accepted, right? In here, the both item X and item Y projects are exceeds their annual rate of return exceed the target rate of return. දෙකම ළමයි item X එකයි item Y එකයි දෙකම 130 ඉක්මවලා ගිහින් තියෙනවා. හරිද? එතකොට අපිට මේ project දෙකම accept කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි but these two projects are mutually exclusive projects. අපිට මේ දෙකම ගෙනියන්න බෑ. දෙකෙන් වඩාත්ම හොඳ එක select කරගන්න වෙනවා. Then what is the decision rule is that the highest the project that gives highest ARR can be selected as the appropriate project. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ දෙකනොත් වැඩිම ARR එකක් පෙන්නන project එකට අපිට invest කරන්න පුළුවන්. That's why it says both projects would earn a return in excess of 30%, but since item X would earn a bigger ARR than the item Y, it would be preferred to item Y even though the profit from Y would be higher by an average of rupees 10,000 a year. මෙතන ළමයි average profit එකෙන් ගත්තොත් average profit එක වැඩිපුරම පෙන්නන්නේ item Y එක, right? But in the percentage as ARR, annual rate of return is higher in item X than the item Y. Okay, therefore the correct answer for this one is X should be selected as the best project and the statement given in the question is false, right? මෙතන ළමයි average annual profit එක item Y එක 10000කින් මීට වඩා item X එකට වඩා 10000කින් වැඩි. but ARR එක item Y එකට වඩා item X එක වැඩි නිසා අපිට පුළුවන් item X එක select කරගන්න as the project, right? Okay. Moving on to the principle of discounted cash flow, right? This is when we are learning, before we are discussing now we have done non-discounting methods, right? Both payback period and the annual rate of return. Those methods do not consider the time value of money. Now we have done the calculation part of those two methods. Now we are going to moving on to the discounting methods, right? Before we are going to discuss the discounting method, we should know what is the meaning of this discounted, right? Wording of the discounted, the principle of discounted, right? That's why here we are going to explain the principles of discounted cash flow. The basic principle of discounting involves calculating the present values of an investment, right? That is the value of an investment today, right? අද වටිනාකම investment එකේ අද වටිනාකම බලන්න තමයි මේ discounting principle of discounted cash flow කියන එක එන්නේ, right? වට්ටම් කිරීමේ මූලික මූලධර්මය ආයෝජනයක වර්තමාන අගය ගණනය කිරීමත් සමග සම්බන්ධ වේ, right? මේ discounted cash flow කියන එක link වෙනවා මෙන්න මේ වර්තමාන අගයත් කියන එකත් එක්ක, present value, right? In the second point, it explains the term of present value, right? The term of present value. The term of present value means the cash equivalent now of a sum to be received or to be paid in the future. මොකක්ද ඒ කියන්නේ? වර්තමාන අගය කියලා අදහස් කරන්නේ අනාගතයේ ලැබෙන හෝ ගෙවිය යුතු යම්කිසි මුදලක අද වටිනාකම. right? ඒ කියන්නේ අවුරුදු 2-3කට පස්සේ අපි ගෙවන හරි අපි ලබන හරි අපි ගෙවිය යුතු යම්කිසි මුදලක හරි අනාගතයේදී අපිට ලැබෙන යම්කිසි මුදලක හරි අද වටිනාකම බලන එකට අපි කියනවා present value කියලා. වර්තමාන අගය කියන්නේ ඒකට. right? In discounting method, right? In the basic principle of discounting involves calculating the present value of an investment. මේ investment එකක present value ඒ කියන්නේ වර්තමානයේ ගණනය කරන එක ගණනය කිරීමත් සමග තමයි මෙන්න මේ discounting කියන එක සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ. right? Moving on. Discounting starts with the future value. Discounting starts with the future value. මොකද අපේ බේසික්ම දේ වෙන්නේ future value එකක present value එක calculate කරන එක. Therefore we need the discounting. right? Discounting කියලා කියන්නේ future value එකක present value එක අනාගත වටිනාකමක වර්තමාන වටිනාකම හොයන එකට. right? Therefore discounting starts with the future value and converts the future value to a present value. වර්තමාන අගයකට convert කරනවා. For example, if a company expects to earn a compound rate of return of 10%, right? What is the meaning of this compound? We know in the interest, if we take interest, right? Basically there is the simple interest and the compound interest, right? Simple interest mean we calculate the interest based on only on the principal amount, but in the compound means it measures the interest based taking consideration on principal amount or the principal amount plus interest. That means interest on interest should be considered. ඒ කියන්නේ compound එකේදී වෙන්නේ ළමයි අපේ principal amount එකට වගේම දැන් පළවෙනි අවුරුද්ද if we take 1 2 3 years as the years, here compound rate means if let's we take 50,000 rupees, right? Here the 10% means here after year 1 50,000 into 10%, right? That means 5,000, right? Now when it's come to the year 2, what happened? The principal amount is 50,000, right? We need to add the interest component of this 50,000 of year 1 as well. Now take both together into 10%, right? Simple interest එකේදී නම් ළමයි 50000ට 110 add වෙවි යනවා, right? But in here if we take the compound interest, compound එකේ සංයුක්ත එකේදී වෙන්නේ අපේ principal amount එකටයි අර add වුණ පොලියටයි දෙකටම ආපහු interest එක වදිනවා. interest on interest, right? That's the basic difference between simple and compound interest. Here it's expect to earn compound rate of return of 10% on its investment. Then how much it need to invest now to have the following investment, right? The first one is rupees 11,000 after 1 year. අවුරුද්දකට පස්සේ 11,000ක් අපිට ලැබෙන්න නම්, right? That means this is the future value. This is the future value. අවුරුද්දකට පස්සේ 11,000ක් ලැබෙන්න නම් 10% යටතේ 10% interest rate එකක් යටතේ අපි අද කීයක් invest කරන්න ඕනද? Right? That's the question asked, right? මොකක්ද අහන්නේ question එකේ? future value. This is the future value. මොකද rupees 11% after 1 year, right? අවුරුද්දකට පස්සේ 11,000ක් ලැබෙන්න නම්, right? අද අපි කීයක් invest කරන්න ඕනද? That's the question asked, right? Then how you can calculate it? This is the formula for calculating the present value. P PV means present value should equals to future value into 1 divided by 1 plus Rn. You can say it like this, future value can be divided by, future value should be divided by 1 plus Rn, right? Here R means the rate, interest rate, N means number of years, right? Okay, here this is the formula. Present value එක ගන්නෙ කොහොමද? Future value එක should be divided by the 1 plus R to the power n, right? 1 plus R වල n වෙනි බලයෙන් future value එක බෙදන්න ඕනේ. මේ formula එකම තමයි ළමයි. මෙතන 1 තියෙන නිසා අපිට FV into 1 you can take it as the future value, right? මෙතන FV එකෙන් වැඩි කරාම කොහොමද future value එක නිසා තමයි මම මේ විදිහට ගත්තේ. මේ formula එකම තමයි මේ දෙකම එකයි, right? Then here it says after 1 year. This is the answer for question A, right here, this one. After 1 year, 11,000 rupees, the question is given that rupees 11,000 after 1 year. So this is the future value. After 1 year, ඒ කියන්නේ අවුරුද්දකට පස්සේ value එක නෙමේ. එහෙනම් මේක තමයි අපේ අනාගත වටිනාකම වෙන්නේ. You need to multiply this 11,000 rupees from, into 1 divided by 1 plus R. 1 plus R means R is 10%, that means 1 plus 0.1. 1 plus 0.1 is 1.1%, right? 1 plus 0.1 means 1 plus 1, right? Then 1 divided by 1 plus 1 divided by 1.1 into to the power 1. Why here to the power 1? The n is 1 because after 1 year අවුරුද්දකට පස්සේනේ. එහෙනම් මෙතන n එක වෙන්නේ අවුරුද්දයි. ඒක අපිට දැම්මත් නැතත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ඒකයි මෙතන remove කරලා තිබ්බේ. Right? You can take the present value. This is the present value. This is the present value. Now we can invest in order to get rupees 11,000 after 1 year. 11,000ක් ගන්න නම් ළමයි අද අපි රුපියල් 10,000ක් මේ අවුරුද්දේ 10,000ක් අපි තව අවුරුද්දකින් 11,000ක් අනාගත වටිනාකමක් ගන්න තව අවුරුද්දකින් 11,000ක් ගන්න 10% යටතේ 10%ක් යටතේ අපි අද ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕන 10,000ක්, right? Then the second question asks rupees 12,100 after 2 years, right? After 2 years අවුරුදු දෙකකට පස්සේ 12,100ක් ගන්න නම් අපි අද කීයක් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕනද? Now this is the future value, right? Now we are going to take the present value of this amount, right? So you need to multiply this 12,100 rupees into 1 divided by 1 plus Rn. 1 plus R is same as previous one. The n is different in here because the first one පළවෙනි එකේදී 1 year, then the second after 2 years. So you need to take 2 to the power 2 here, right? Then the present value would be the rupees 10,000. එහෙනම් ළමයි අවුරුදු දෙකකට පස්සේ 12,100ක් ගන්න නම් අපි අද 10,000ක් 10% යටතේ ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕන, right? The third one it says rupees 13,310 after 3 years. අවුරුදු 3කට පස්සේ 13,310ක් ගන්න නම් 10% යටතේ අපි කීයක් අද ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕනේද? Now after 3 years, this is the future value. We need to take the present value of this amount, right? You need to take 13,310,000 into 1 divided by 1 plus Rn, that means 1 plus 1.1 into to the power 3 because after 3 years. Then you can take the answer as rupees 10,000. Then අවුරුදු 3කට පස්සේ 13310ක් ගන්න නම් අපි අද රුපියල් 10000ක් 10% යටතේ ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕන. Right? Hope you clearly got the discounting, the wording of discounting, right? And to how you can calculate the present values of future values, right? Okay, here the Sinhala explanation of discounting. මෙතන කියනවා වට්ටම් කිරීම අනාගත වටිනාකමකින් පටන්ගෙන මොකද වට්ටම් කිරීම පටන් ගන්නෙ අනාගත වටිනාකමකින් එම අනාගත වටිනාකම වර්තමාන වටිනාකමකට පරිවර්තනය කරනවලු. ඩිස්කවුන්ටිං වට්ටම් කිරීමේදී වෙන්නේ අනාගත වටිනාකම වර්තමාන වටිනාකමට පරිවර්තනය කිරීම. Here the explanation of Sinhala explanation of previous calculation, you can go through it, right? Now here the same thing, actually these two, discounting and present value, means it's a link together. There is a here strong there is a strong linkage between present values and discounting, right? You know why, right? The term present value simply means the cash equivalent now of a sum to be received or to be paid in the future, right? Present value කියලා කියන්නේ අනාගත වටිනාකමක වර්තමාන අගය, right? Present value කියන්නේ ඒක, right? In the discounting formula, this was discussed previously, right? Then here the explanation is given. FV is the future value of the investment with interest, right? PV is the present value of that sum, right? That future values are මෙන්න මේ අනාගත අගයන්ගේ වර්තමාන අගය තමයි අපි PV කියලා identify කරගන්නේ. Then R is the rate of return expressed as a proportion, right? N is the number of time periods, usually it's years, right? The rate R is sometimes called as the cost of capital, right? Did you remember that the wording of cost of capital? I have explained it at the very beginning of the session. Cost of ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය කිව්වේ ළමයි අපි debt financing එකකින් අපේ capital එක raise කරගන්න පුළුවන් අපිට debt financing එකෙන් හරි equity financing එකෙන් හරි. Debt financing means the cost of capital of debt financing is cost that a business incurs to when the business financing through the debt financing, right? Cost of capital, right? Cost of capital, did you remember that wording of cost of capital, right? I have at the very beginning of the session I have discussed this wording, right? ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය කියන එක, you know the capital you can raise to the company from debt financing or equity financing, right? Debt financing means borrowing money from outside. එතකොට ළමයි අපි පිටතින් ගන්න මුදල් වලට ගෙවන cost එක තමයි cost of capital කියලා කියන්නේ. capital එකට අදාළ cost එක, right? And when it's come to the equity financing means raise capital from the investors, right? Investors ලගෙන් ගන්නවා නම් then the capital that we are going to cost that we are going to pay to that investors, right? Those the interest rate in here, the R means the sometimes called the cost of capital. මෙතන R කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි interest එකනේ, right? Interest එක means let's we take debt financing, the interest for borrowing money, right? It is the cost of capital, it is the R, right? Okay, now here are two examples to understanding the present values. The first one is calculate the present value of 60,000 rupees received at the end of year 6 if interest rate are 15% per annum, right? The discounting formula is present value equals to FV future values into 1 divided by 1 plus Rn. This is the discounting formula, right? Now the future value is 60,000 rupees, right? Here the received at the end of year 6 අවුරුදු 6කට පස්සේ ලැබෙන ගාන තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. එහෙනම් 60,000 කියන්නේ 60,000 කියන්නේ future value එක, right? Then the period, number of period, that means number of year is 6, right? R is 15%. Sorry, 15% means 0.15. Then you can calculate the present value 60,000, that is future value, into 1 divided by 1 plus R. This is the 1 plus R, that means 1 plus 0.15. That is the answer is 1.15 to the power 6. Here to the power 6. Then you can easily take, this is the, we can call this component as the discounting factor, right? The answer of it's better to take here. Here the answer is for this component is 0.432. We can identify this as a discounting factor. මේක තමයි ළමයි වට්ටම් සාධකය වෙන්නේ. මේක අපි solve කරලා එන factor එක තියෙනවානේ මේ එන answer එක. මේකට අපි discounting factor එක කියලාත් කියනවා වට්ටම් සාධකය. අපි මේ අදාළ future value එක අනාගතයේ discounting factor එකෙන් වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ වට්ටම් සාධකයෙන් වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ තමයි අපිට future value present value එක ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. So 60,000 rupees into this 0.432, right? Then you can take the answer as 25,920 rupees. The present value of 60,000 rupees is 25,920 rupees. අර 60,000 වර්තමාන අගය වෙන්නේ. කියන්නේ අවුරුදු 6කට පස්සේ 60,000ක් ලැබෙනවා නම් ඒ 60,000 වර්තමාන අගය වෙන්නේ 15% 15% යටතේ වර්තමාන අගය වෙන්නේ rupees 25,920 රුපියල් 25,920යි, right? Then the second one, it asks calculate the present value of rupees 100,000 received at the end of year 5 if interest rate is 6% per annum, right? Here the future value is 100,000, the n is 5 and interest rate is rupees 0.06. Now you can calculate the present value by taking the discounting formula, right? FV into 1 divided by 1 plus R to the power n, then the future value is 100,000 into 1 divided by the 1 plus R, right? 1 plus R means 1 plus 0.06, that means 1.06, right? You can take 1.06 into number of years is 5 n, right? You can take the answer for that, right? Before now there is a discounting formula. This is some kind of a process, right? මෙතන දැන් discounting formula එක calculate කරන්න ළමයි අපිට මෙහෙම මෙන්න මෙතන ඉන්නේ අපි discount factor එක calculate කරගන්නේ, right? Here I have told no, මෙතන අපිට පුළුවන් මෙහෙම calculate කරනවා වෙනුවට instead of calculating the discounting factor through discounting formula, we can use the present value tables, right? In your examination as well, it will be given the present value tables, it will be given, right? මේ වර්තමාන වටිනාකම් සහිත වගුවක් දෙනවා, right? Let's we take here, we have calculated present values by using discounting formula. Discounting formula එක use කරලා තමයි අපි වර්තමානගයන් මෙතනදී calculate කරේ. Now we are going to use the present value tables in order to calculate the present value. වර්තමාන අගයන් ගණනය කරන්න වර්තමාන අගයන් සහිත වගු භාවිතා කරන් තමයි යන්නේ, right? You will be happy to hear that you do not need to remember the formula for discounting because it will be provided, this present value tables will be provided in your examination as well. මේ වර්තමාන අගයන් සහිත වගු ඔයාලට exam එකේදී මේක දෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ඔයාලගේ study pack එකෙත් මේ present value tables තියෙනවා, right? Then let's we take example, right? The first one here, calculate the present value of 60,000 rupees at year 6 if interest rates are 15% per annum using tables, right? Now here this is the present value table, extraction from a present value table. මේ තියෙන්නේ ඔයාලගේ වර්තමාන අගයන් සහිත වගු වලින් උපුටාගත්ත පොඩි කොටසක් for the calculation purpose. මෙතනින් ගන්න එක ගොඩක් ලේසි ළමයි. අපි discounting formula එක use කරලා ගන්නවට වඩා මෙතනින් අපිට ඉක්මනටම discounting factor එක ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? Discounting factor එක. Did you remember the discounting factor? Here, this one, right? This one is the 0.432. This is the මේක අපි කලින් හදපු ගානේ. මෙන්න මේ 0.432 කියන එක. මෙන්න මේ discounting factor එක. මෙන්න මේ calculation එකට යන්නේ නැතුව අපිට present value table එකෙන් ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා මේ කියන්නේ, right? Okay. Here how you can get it? කොහොමද ඒක ගන්නෙ, right? You need two things to get the present discounting factor. In order to calculate present values, you need two things, right? The first one, right? You need the interest rate, relevant interest rate, and the year. How many years, right? That means discount rate we have defined in here as R, and number of period until payment we elaborate as N, right? Here we need two things, right? R is 15% and N is 6, right? We need to look at in present value tables in the 15% of interest rate and the number of periods 6, right? Here the 15%, here 1, 2, 3, 4 likewise 15% is here, right? The interest rate R is 15% and number of years, number of periods until payment is 6, you know, 6, it's 6. Now you can look at the discount factor. මෙතනින් ළමයි interest rate එක 15 වෙන සහ අවුරුදු 6ක් යනකොට අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් discounting factor එක තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ, right? Discounting factor එක තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. Here this is the discounting factor, right? Instead of calculating discounting factor by using discounting formula, we can easily take that discounting factor, respective discounting factor, by using these present value tables. We need only two things, that is interest rate and the number of periods until the payment, right? Now here we have taken the discounting factor. Now we can take that discounting factor as 0.432 as the discounting factor. Now we can easily calculate the present value. PV equals, now the future value amount is 60,000 rupees. Then you can easily take that 60,000 rupees into discounting factor, that is 0.432. Now you can get the answer for that, right? Here the same thing we are calculating here, but here we have calculating the present value using the discounting formula. මෙන්න මේ කොටස ගන්නවා වෙනුවට තමයි අපිට අර present value table එකෙන් මේක easily ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. Right? Then now this one මෙන්න මේ කොටසනේ අපිට කෙලින්ම ගන්න පුළුවන්. present value tables use කරලා මේ discounting factor එක කෙලින්ම අපිට table එකෙන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට present value එක අපිට මෙන්න මේ step එකට යන්නේ නැතුව කෙලින්ම present value එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Here I will again calculate that PV equals 60,000 rupees into 0.432. Then you can take the answer would be 25,920. Right? Likewise, in the second one, calculate the present value of 100,000 rupees at year 5 if the interest rates are 6% per annum using tables. Right? The interest rate is 6%, R is 6, and N is 5. Right? Now R is 6, and N equals to 5. Right? Hope right. N equals to 5. R is 6 and N is 5. Then you can easily take the discounting factor as this much 0.747. මේ discounting factor එක ඔයගලන්ට ගන්න පුළුවන් 0.747. Right? Now the discounting factor is 0.747. Now you can easily take the present value 100,000 rupees into 0.747. Now you can take the answer for that. Right? Okay. Now we have come to the new subtopic of under this topic, that is annuities and perpetuities. Right? Annuities and perpetuities. Right? Annuities. සිංහලෙන් අපි කිව්වොත් වාර්ෂික. Right? In here it clearly says an annuity is a constant sum of money. It's a constant sum of money received or paid each year for a given number of years. Right? දෙන ලද වසර සංඛ්‍යාවක් සඳහා සෑම වර්ෂයකම ලැබෙන හෝ ගෙවන නියත මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයක්. It's a constant sum of money. නියත මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයක්. Right? In here you can see that the cash flows for all years is 100. Right? හැම අවුරුද්දෙම ලැබිලා තියෙන්නේ cash flow එක constant. ඒක වෙනස් වෙලා නැහැ. Right? annuity එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ එතකොට දෙන ලද ඒ වසර සංඛ්‍යාව තුල ලැබෙන හෝ ගෙවන නියත මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයන් අපි කියනවා වාර්ෂිකයක් කියලා. or annuities. Right? Then here for example the present value of 3-year annuity. Right? Here the period is 3 years. Right? It's a 3 years annuity of 100 rupees which begins in 1 year's time when interest rates are 5% is calculated as follows. Right? අවුරුදු 3යි අපේ time period එක. එහෙනම් මේ අවුරුදු 3 ඇතුළතදී ලැබෙන cash flow එක or ගෙවන cash flow එක. Right? cash outflow, cash inflow ඒක සමාන වෙන්න ඕන. ඒක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ හැම අවුරුද්දෙම. බලන්න year 1 it's 100, 200, 300. Right? discount factor එක or the interest rate is 5%. Right? Now moving on to the present value table. Right? Moving on to the present value table, we can easily get the discount factors. These is discounting factors. These discount factors rather than going for a discounting formula. After formula එකට යන්නේ නැතුව කෙලින්ම present value table එකෙන් මේ discounting factors තුන ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? How we can get it? Here we need only N and R. Right? R is 5% and N is how much? It's 3. Right? Now we will look at the present value table. Right? Present value table. Here we know the R is 5% and N is 3. Right? We are going to calculate we are going to find out the discount factors. අවුරුදු 3ට 105ක interest එක යටතේ discounting factors ටික ගන්න යන්නේ. Right? Here the 5% is there. R එක තියෙනවා මෙතන. Right? Number of years, right? Number of period is 3, but we need the discounting factors for year 1, year 2, year 3 as well. අපිට මේ තුනටම මෙන්න මේ තුනටම discounting factor එක ඕනේ. මොකද එක් මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන් ඒ අදාළ discounting factor එකෙන් multiply කරලා තමයි අපිට ගන්න ඕන. Right? We need to multiply the relevant cash flows, right, with in relevant discounting factors. Right? Now look at here. The periods are 1, 2, 3. Year 1, year 2, year 3. The interest rate is 5. Now the discounting factors for first 3 years under the 5% interest rates are these three: 0.952, 0.907 and 0.864. Right? We can extract these discounting factors from here to our calculation. Right? Now we have, for the convenience, I have already included those things here. Right? Look at here, these three discount factors are there. That present value tables. Present value table එකෙන් තමයි ළමයි මේ තුන අපි ගන්නෙ. Right? මේ අපි ගන්න year 1 එකේදී කොච්චරක්ද discounting factor එක, year 2 එකේදී discount factor එක කීයද, and year 3 එකේදී discount factor එක කීයද. Now in order to get the present value, you know, normally we need to multiply these two together. Right? Cash flow එක discounting factor එකෙන් වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ තමයි ළමයි present value එක එන්නේ. Right? Because these are the future values, no? These are future values. Right? Then if you remember the present value formula, present value එක ගන්නේ කොහොමද? Future value into discount factor. Right? Here you can take this one and this one and this one. Those are 100 into 0.952, 100 into 0.907, 100 into 0.864. Right? These are the present values of these future values. මේ තියෙන future values වල වර්තමාන අගයන් තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. ඔයාලට මතක ඇති ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගිහින් බලන්න අපේ present value formula එකේත් ඒක clearly තියෙනවා. අපි present value table එකෙන් අපි මුලින්ම discounting formula එකෙන් මේ discounting factor එක calculate කරලා ගත්තා. Now we do not need to calculate the discount factor by using discounting formula because we have present value tables. අපිට ඒ තියෙන නිසා අපි කෙලින්ම මෙතනට ඒ ටික අරගත්තාම future value into discount factor equals to present value. Right? But here you have, did you note something? Right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ මෙතන දෙයක් දැක්කද? අපිට පුළුවන් කෙලින්ම අවශ්‍ය නම්, right? Rather than, instead of calculating these all cash flows under the relevant discounting factor separately, we can easily multiply this future cash flow, right? Future cash flow, that means annuity, the value of annuity into 2.723, that equals to this one, the present value. මෙතන ළමයි අපි මේ එකින් එක ගන්නවට වඩා කෙලින්ම අපි annuity value එක අරගෙන මෙතන මේ discounting factors වල summation එක, මේ discounting factors එකතු කරාට පස්සේ ලැබෙන අගයෙන් අපිට annuity එක වැඩි කරත් අපිට මේ present value එක, total present value එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? The calculating this present value, finally අපිට ඕන ඇත්තටම මේ total present value එකනේ. right? So we can easily calculate this annuity into the cumulative discounting factor under the 5%, right? That's the difference between the annuities, right? Annuities වල තියෙන වෙනස ඒක තමයි. එතකොට අපිට මේ එක එක discounting factors ගන්නෙ නැතුව අපිට cumulative discounting factor එකක් ගන්න බලන්න, because annuities is a constant sum of money received or paid each year for a given number of period. Annuity එකක් කියලා එහෙම නැත්නම් වාර්ෂිකයක් කියලා කියන්නේ දෙන ලද වසර ගණනකට, right? ගෙවන හෝ ලැබෙන නියත මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයක්. ඒක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙනම් cash flow එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් අපිට කෙලින්ම annuity එක we can multiply this value of annuity by the cumulative discount factor. How we can get this cumulative discount factor here? මේ කොහොමද ගන්න පුළුවන් ළමයි? අපිට මේ ටික අරගෙන එකතු කර කර ඉන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. We have annuity tables as well, right? We have annuity tables as well. Here the R is 5, right? R is 5 and N is 3. We only need these two things, right? This is the annuity table, right? Here it's an annuity table, not the present value table. මේ table එකත් ඔයාලගේ study pack එකෙත් අන්තිමටම තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම exam එකට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙනකොට present value table එක, annuity table එක දෙකම you have, it will be they will be provided, right? Now here we need the 5% discount rate. This is the R and number of period is 3, right? Now we look at here, right, it's there. ඒක තියෙනව නේද ළමයි? This is the cumulative discounting factor actually, right? අතන අපි ඔක්කොම එකට එකක් present value table එකට ගිහිලා එකින් එක හොයලා එකතු කරනවට වඩා we can easily take that discount rate, no, discounting factor or the annuity factor. We can say here this is not a discounting factor, it's a annuity factor. We can easily take the annuity factor from the annuity tables, right? It's 2.723. Here it's also there, 2.723, right? Now here the present value of annuity. Now we can easily take the present value of annuity by multiplying annuity, value of the annuity into annuity factor. This is the cumulative discounting factor that we have extracted from the annuity table. මේක ළමයි annuity table එකෙන් ගන්න එක, right? From annuity table, not the present value table, right? present value table එකෙන් ගන්නව නම් separately අවුරුදු 3ටම අරගෙන ඒකේ cumulative එක ගන්න ඕනේ. කියන්නේ එකතුව ගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට වඩා ලේසි then the formula for calculation of present value of annuity is annuity value into annuity factor, right? Here the example, one of example is here. Abhilash has to make an annual payment of rupees 100,000 rupees to a car hire company each year from 13 June 2023 to 13 June 2028, right? It's required calculate the present value of Abhilash total payments if today's date is 1st July 2022. Use the discount rate of 7%, right? Here now the total payment Abhilash has now if the today's date is 1st of July 2022, now the period is today is 1st July 2022, from 1st of July 2022 until the 30th June 2028. Now we have the period of 6 years, right? Now we have period of 6 years. The R is 7%. Now we need to look at from the annuity table as the R is 7% and N is 6. 7 interest rate එක 7ක් වෙනකොට සහ period එක 6ක් වෙනකොට annuity factor එක කීයද කියලා හොයන්න ඕන, right? Here this is the annuity table, right? The interest rate is 7 and number of period is 6, right? Now the annuity factor for this one is this much, 4.767, right? This is from annuity table, 767, right? Now you can easily take the present value of annuity, PV of annuity, right? How you can get this one? Present value of annuity. The value of annuity is 100,000 rupees. 100,000 rupees into annuity factor, that is 4.767. Right? Now you can take the answer, rupees 47,670. This is the present value of this 100,000 rupees of annuity, right? Here it also mentioned here, right? Okay, we have discussed about here the annuities, right? Now we are going to discuss about the perpetuities, right? Here, perpetuities. A perpetuity is an annuity which lasts forever, right? නොනැවතී දිගින් දිගටම ගෙවනු ලබන වාර්ෂිකයකට අපි කියනවා අනවරත මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයක් කියලා. perpetuity එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ it's an annuity which lasts forever, right? It has indefinite time period. ඒක කාලයක් අපිට නිශ්චිතව කියන්න බෑ, right? As a practical example, we can take bonds, stocks, right? Likewise, they can take as examples for that, right? The present value of perpetuity, formula for calculation of present value of perpetuity is annuity value should be divided by the interest rate. It's not difficult to calculate, right? වාර්ෂිකය පොලි අනුපාතයෙන් බෙදුවහම අපිට මේ perpetuity එකක එහෙම නැත්නම් අනවරත මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයක වර්තමාන අගය ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? In here something is important, that here the interest rate, right? Here interest rate, here it says interest rate, here explain here, there is a note, expressed as a proportion, right? Not expressed as a not a percentage, right? It's a proportion. මේක අපි මේ සමානුපාතයක් විදිහට තමයි ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ. කියන්නේ අපේ එන පිළිතුර අපි එතන ගන්නේ සමානුපාතයක් විදිහට, interest rate එක සමානුපාතයක් විදිහට, right? In here there is an example, Fred is to receive 35,000 rupees per annum in perpetuity starting in 1 year's time, right? 1 year's time. Then calculate, it's required, calculate the present value of this perpetuity if the annual rate of interest rate is 9%. 9යි නම් 35000 අනවර්ත මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයක වර්තමාන අගය ගණනය කරන්නලු. මෙතන නැති එකම දේ ළමයි n. n is not there. There's this perpetuity has an indefinite time period. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට නිශ්චිතව කාල පරාසයක් කියන්න බෑ, right? Here now here it's simple, right? It's simple to calculate the present value of perpetuity is annuity value. You need to take this annuity value 35,000 rupees. You need to divide this 35,000 rupees by the interest rate, but you cannot take it as the now 9%, right? 9% විදිහට ගන්න බෑ. අපිට ඒක කියලා තියෙනවා සමානුපාතයක් විදිහට ගන්න කියලා. Right? Then you can take it as the 0.09. Right? දශම සංඛ්‍යාවක් විදිහට. Now you can take answer as rupees 388,889. This is the present value of this 35,000 rupees of perpetuity. Right? Okay. We have discussed all the non-discounting methods and annuities and perpetuities and the principle of discounting cash flows, right? All things we have discussed. Now we will start with here the net present value method. That is one of the discounting methods. Discounting methods යටතේ ළමයි ඔයාලට මතක ඇති there are two methods, net present value and the internal rate of return. අභ්‍යන්තර ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය සහ ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය. Right? Here there is a small definition or the small brief explanation for discounted cash flow. Right? We have already discussed these things. Right? In here it says discounted cash flow methods can be used to appraise capital investment projects. Right? Discounted cash flow involves the application of discounting arithmetic to the estimate future cash flows. Right? වට්ටම් කරන ලද මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන්. Right? From a capital investment project in order to decide whether the project is expected to earn a satisfactory rate of return. Right? එතකොට ව්‍යාපාරයක ව්‍යාපෘතියක ආයෝජනය කිරීමෙන් සෑහීමකට පත්වෙන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රතිලාභයක් ලැබෙනවද කියලා බලන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රායෝගික method. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රායෝගික ක්‍රමයක්. Right? This is the practical method. මොකද අපි අනිවාර්යෙන්ම we need to consider the time value of money, you know, right? Previous we have discussed the payback period and the ARR method. Though those do not consider, those two methods are not considered, do not consider the time value of money, but we need to definitely use the effect of the time value of money. Right? එතකොට මුදලේ කාල වටිනාකම භාවිතා කරන නිසා මේක ගොඩක් ප්‍රායෝගික ක්‍රමයක් කියලා අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? The two main discounted cash flow methods are as follows. There are two methods නේ. අපි කලින් කතා කරා. The net present value method, that means NPV method, and the internal rate of return, that means IRR. Right? net ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය සහ අභ්‍යන්තර ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය. Now we will look at the net present value method. Right? ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය. The net present value method calculates the present values of all items of income and expenditure related to an investment at a given rate of return and then calculates a net total. If it is positive, right, this is important. Right? If it is positive, the investment considered to be acceptable. If it is negative, the investment is considered to be unacceptable. This is the decision rule. Right? මේක තමයි investment එක මේ ව්‍යාපෘති ආයෝජනය කරනවද නැද්ද කියලා බලන්නේ net present value එක positive වගයක් නම් ගන්නෙ. NPV, if it is NPV is positive වගයක් නම් අපි ඒක accept කරනවා. NPV ඍණාගයක් නම් අපි ඒ ආයෝජනය reject කරනවා. Right? Here the meaning of this net present value එකේදී කරන්නේ ළමයි here it says the present value of all, calculates the present value of all items of income and expenditure. ඉස්සරහ අවුරුද්දට එන cash flows වල ඔක්කොම present value calculate කරනවා, right? And related to an investment at a given rate of return, right? Given rate, and then calculate the net total. Net total means the present value. We need to compare the initial investment value and the total of present value of all items in the coming years, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ initial investment එකයි ඉස්සරහා අවුරුදු වලට එන cash flows වල වර්තමානයයි සංසන්දනය කළා තමයි අපි ඒ දෙක අතර difference එක තමයි NPV විදිහට ගන්නෙ, right? You can understand this by calculating an example, right? Here there is another terminology, that is cost of capital. I have already discussed with you that cost of capital, ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය, right? In here the cost of capital has two aspects, right? Two aspects. It is, first one, it is the cost of funds that the company raises and uses. Cost of funds. Cost of funds that the company raises and uses. සමාගමක් රැස් කරන සහ භාවිතා කරන අරමුදල් වල පිරිවැය, right? And the return that investors expect to be paid for putting funds into the company, right? සමාගමකට අරමුදල් ලබා දීම වෙනුවෙන් ආයෝජකයන් අපේක්ෂා කරන ප්‍රතිලාභයත් අපි cost of capital කියලා identify කරගන්නවා. It is therefore minimum return that the company should make from its own investment to earn cash flows out of which investors can be paid their return, right? ඒ අනුව මේ ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය කියලා කියන්නේ සමාගමක් විසින් ආයෝජකයන්ට ඔවුන්ගේ අපේක්ෂිත ප්‍රතිලාභය ගෙවීම සඳහා ආයෝජකයන්ගෙන් ඉපයීමට අවශ්‍ය කරන්නා වූ අවම ප්‍රතිලාභය. It's a cost of capital, right? Here the cost of capital can therefore be measured by studying the returns required by investors, right? අපිට එහෙනම් cost of capital කියන එක measure කරන්න පුළුවන් කොහොමද ළමයි ලේසියෙන්ම? The returns required by the investors. investor ආයෝජකයන් අපේ ව්‍යාපෘතියට අපිට ආයෝජකයන් අපේ ව්‍යාපෘතියට අරමුදල් ආයෝජනය කරනවා නම් එයාලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන අවම ප්‍රතිලාභය අපි යාලට දෙන්න ඕනේ, right? Then is the cost of capital. ඒක අපිට cost එක, right? Now the cost of capital that can therefore be measured by studying the returns required by investors. ආයෝජකයන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවය ආයෝජකයන්ගේ ප්‍රතිලාභ අවශ්‍යතාවය පදනම් කරගෙන අපිට cost of capital එක ගන්න පුළුවන් and used to derive a discount rate for discounted cash flow analysis and investment appraisal. මේ ආයෝජනය ගෙීමට සහ වට්ටම් කළ මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන් විශ්ලේෂණය කිරීම සඳහා ඒ නිසා අපිට මේ rate එක වෙනුවට මේ return required by investors කියන එකට discount rate එක use කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? Moving that here, before we are going to calculate before we are going to do the calculation part, here there are some two words to explain: cash and profit, right? Remember that it is cash flow figures. Remember that it is cash flow figures that must be included in your calculation, right? Here these are based on the cash flows. These all methods are calculating based on the cash flow figures, right? Not the profit. ඔක්කොම මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන්, මුදල් ගලා ඒම් සහ ගලා යෑම, right? It's only included the cash items, not the non-cash item like depreciation, right? Here it's explained in the second point, if depreciation has been deducted to arrive at a profit figure, right? This is cash, this is profit. If depreciation has been deducted to arrive at a profit figure, right? අපි profit එක ගන්නකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා depreciation අපි අඩු කරලානේ ගන්නෙ. එහෙම කරලා නම්, right? but සමහර ප්‍රශ්නවල ඔයගලන්ට දෙන්න පුළුවන් profit figure එක before the depreciation, right? මෙතනදි කියන්නේ ඒක නෙමෙයි. If depreciation has been deducted to arrive at a profit figure, normally this is the thing, right? It must be added back. It must be added back. It must be added back to give the net cash flow. අනිවාර්යෙන්ම එතකොට ඒක actual cash flow එකක් නෙමෙයි, real cash flow එකක් නෙමෙයි. Depreciation is a non cash item. It's not a real cash flow. So what you need to do is, if you have deducted that profit figure, you need to add it back. ඒ profit එකට ආපහු depreciation එක එකතු කරලා තමයි ඔයාලා net cash flow එක ගන්න ඕන. Right? Now this is an example for calculating NPV, right? The question is, Manel LLC is considering whether to make an investment costing 28 million rupees, which would earn a profit of 2.4 million rupees, 2.4 million rupees per annum for each of the next 5 years. Next 5 years, right? After charging depreciation. After charging depreciation. That is important. එහෙනම් මෙතන profit එක අරන් තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද? depreciation එක charge කරාට පස්සේ, right? Then we need to add back that depreciation amount to the particular profit figure at the straight line rate over 5 years to a residual value of 0 rupees, right? Now calculate the net present value of the investment at a cost of capital of 11%. This is the discounting factor. මොකද අපි කතා කරන්නේ අතන cost of capital එක අපිට ලේසියෙන් ගන්න පුළුවන් මොකෙන්ද? discounting factor. It's a discounting factor, right? Now you need to take all years by including the 0. I'll explain why we take these 0 year. බිඳුවේ ඉඳන් 5 වෙනකන් අපි years ටික දාගන්නවා, right? Now profit. You need to first take the years and secondly profit. Now it's, if we take it as rupees 1000, right? In year 0 there is no any profit. බිඳුවේදී නැහැනේ ළමයි. අපි එකේ ඉඳන් 5 වෙනකන්නේ මෙතන කියලා දෙනවා next 5 years කියලා, right? Year 0 කියලා කියන්නේ the point where we have invested to this project. අපි මේ investment එක කරන තැන. එතනදී තියෙන cash outflow එකක් විතරයි. There is only cash outflow. අපි මේ investment එක බලන්න, investment එක, the cost of the investment is 28 million rupees. Then the cash outflow, අපි එක cash outflow එකක් විදිහට දාන්නේ. මොකද ව්‍යාපෘති පටන් ගන්න තැනදීම අපේ cash පිටතට ගලාගෙන යනවා. ඒ 28000 අපිට ආයෝජනය කරන්න වෙනවා. Then that's why in year 0 there is no any profit, no any depreciation, but you need to mention that cash outflow as a minus figure. ඒක minus figure එකක් විදිහට දාන්න ඕන, right? Now if we take these 5 years, right? The profit එක වෙනස් වෙලා නැහැ. Profit is not changing. Assume that the 2.4 million rupees profit earns for next 5 years, right? මෙතන කියනවා next 5 years වලටම මේ ගාන තමයි කියලා හිතන්න, right? Now the profit for year 1 is 2400, here also 2400. මේ හැම එකටම මිලියන 2.4යි. මොකද ඒක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? This is the profits for all 5 years, right? But in here it says, clearly says that next 5 years after charging depreciation, right? This profit is figure out after charging depreciation. Depreciation එක අඩු කරාට පස්සේ තමයි මේ profit එක ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. Now we know depreciation is not a real cash flow. Then what we have to do is we need to add back that depreciation value to relevant profit figure. අපි ඒක ආපහු add back කරන්න ඕනේ. ඊට කලින් we need to calculate the depreciation, right? We need to calculate the in workings, right? Under the workings, we need to calculate, first we need to calculate the depreciation amount for this project, this investment, right? The cost of that investment is 28 million, right? 28 million. The time period or the lifetime for this project is 5 years, right? මිලියන 28ක් ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එක කොච්චරක්ද ජීවිත කාලය වෙන්නේ එතකොට 5යි, right? Now we can easily take the depreciation value as 5.6 million. 5.6 million, right? This depreciation value should be added back to the relevant profit figures. The may 5.6 කියන මිලියන් 5.6 කියන ෂෙයා ප්‍රමාණය අපි ආපහු මේ profit figure එකට එකතු කරනවා. මොකද මෙතන profit figure එක අරගෙන තින්නේ ඒක අඩු කරලා. එතකොට ඒක cash flow එකක් නෙවෙයි. ඒ නිසා අපි මේකට ආපහු we should be added back. Then in year 0 there is no any depreciation because there is no any profit. Only thing that happened in the year 0 is the cash outflow, that is the cost of investment, right? Here we need to add it back the depreciation amount. If we take, removing the 1000 value, right? 5,600 should be added back. Right? Now we can take the cash flow, right? Profit plus depreciation. Now we can take the cash flow for each year. හැම අවුරුද්දටම අදාළ cash flow එක calculate කරන්න පුළුවන් profit එකට මේ depreciation එක එකතු කරලා, right? That's why in the year 1 the cash flow is 8,000, here 8,000, 8,000, 8,000 and 8,000. By adding these two we can take the cash flow figure, right? Now we need to take the discounting factors under the 11%, right? Under the 11%. Now you can use the present value tables to here, right? I am not going to explain how we can take that discounting factor from the present value tables. We have since we have already discussed about that. මෙතනදී ඕගලන්ට present value table එකට ගිහිල්ලා discounting factor එක ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? Year 0 එකේදී in year 0 here the discounting factor is 1, right? මොකද අද මේ investment එක කරන අවස්ථාවේදී එතන discounting factor එකක් එන්න විදිහක් නැහැනේ ළමයි, right? Therefore it should be 1. මොකද මේ investment එක මේ විදිහටම තමයි present value එක වෙන්නේ. මොකද present value එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි අද investment එක කරන්නේ. ව්‍යාපෘතියට අපි අද investment එක කරන්නේ. So the discounting factor is 1. Right? ඒක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැනේ. Right? Now we can take all these discounting factor. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේකත් present value table එකෙන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. All these discounting factors under the 11% from the present value tables. You need to take the 11% and the for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Likewise, you can take the relevant discounting factors for each years under the 11% of interest rate, right? Then by multiplying these two, cash flow into discounting factor, you can take the present value because this cash flow, this is the future values, no? Future values of cash flows, no? මේ තියෙන්නේ cash flows වල අනාගත අගයන්. ඒවැ වර්තමාන අගයන් ගන්න අපි discounting factor එකෙන් multiply කරනවා. Now you can take here as the minus 28,000 and all those figures by multiplying the cash flows into discounting factor, right? Now what you need to do is you have take the profit figures and you have added back the depreciation value for each particular profit figures, and you take the cash flows, right? After that, by multiplying that cash flows from cash flows into relevant discounting factor, you took the present values for each years, right? හැම එකටම දැන් present values අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ. දැන් කොහොමද NPV එක calc කරන්නේ? How we are going to calculate the NPV, net present value here? ශුද්ධ වර්තමානගේ ගන්නෙ කොහොමද? Easily we should take the net total of all those things. මේ ඔක්කොගෙම net total එක ගත්තහම අපිට එනවා NPV එක. This is the value of NPV, right? Or else we can take the difference between the investment value and the rest of cash flows. අපිට investment value එකයි මේ අනෙත් cash flows අතරයි difference එක ගත්තොත් ඒත් අපිට මේ NPV අගේ එනවා, ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගේ එනවා. It's a net present value, ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගේ. මෙහෙම ගනිද්දි මේ net total එක ගන්න එක තමයි ලේසිම ක්‍රමය. Why we have taken this net total? ඇයි අපි මේ ශුද්ධ අගේ ගන්නෙ? මොකද මේ තියෙන්නේ අපේ cash outflow එක. This is our cash outflow, that is investment, cost of investment. These are the cash flows that we are estimate to generate from this project. මේ තියෙන අපි ඇස්තමේන්තුගත කරන මුදල් ප්‍රවාහය. එතකොට ඒ මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයෙන් අපේ cost එක, අපේ investment එක cost එක අයින් කරාට පස්සේ තමයි අපිට එන net present value. එහෙම නැත්නම් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි ගත්තොත් ප්‍රතිලාභය වශයෙන් එන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කොටස. මොකද මේ තියෙන ඉදිරියට එන ඇස්තමේන්තුගත මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන්ගෙන් අපි අපේ ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් එක cover වෙන ටික cost of investment අයින් කරාට පස්සේ ඒක තමයි අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන ප්‍රතිලාභයක් විදිහට. Right? But it called as net present value. ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගයන්ගේ ශුද්ධ අගය. Right? Now, since this NPV value take positive figure, right? මෙතන මේක positive වෙන නිසා අපිට මේ project එක accept කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Now, here there is an alternative treatment for that. For this calculation, there is an alternative treatment. මෙතන විකල්පයක් තියෙනවා ළමයි. මොකක්ද? Did you note that the cash flows for all 5 periods, right? මේ එකේ ඉඳන් 5 වෙනකන් අවුරුදු කාලය තුල, right? අවුරුදු තුල cash flows, it's a constant sum of money නේද? right? ඒක නියත මුදල් ගලා යෑමක් විදිහට තියෙනවා. right? Then we could treat this constant sum of money or the cash inflows of 8,000 rupees for 5 years as an annuity. Did you remember that annuity? වාර්ෂික කියලා අපි කතා කරේ. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් මෙතන cash flow එක ඉදිරි අවුරුදු 5 තුලටම සමාන නිසා annuity එකක් විදිහට මෙතන treat කළා අපිට present value එක ගන්න පුළුවන් easily. right? How we can take that? Here it shows year 0. This one should be take definitely. මේක අපි ගන්න ඕනේ කොහොමත්, right? මේක මේ ටිකත් එක්ක වෙන separate විදිහට තියෙන්නේ. This is our cost of investment, no? right? Then you need to take year 0 and 1 to 5 together. 1 to 5 කියන එකට ගන්න පුළුවන්. right? Here year 0, this is the cost of investment 28,000, discount factor is 1 and present value of that cash flow is 28,000 as it is, right? Now the 1 to 5 years, the cash flow is 8,000 rupees. By removing that 1,000 values, 8,000 rupees. දැන් 8,000යි නේ මේ හැම අවුරුදු 5 තුලම. එහෙනම් cash flow එක 8,000යි. Now we can take the discounting factor here, right? By using annuity this is present value tables, right? By looking at the annuity table, right? Annuity table, the discounting factor for that, by using this annuity table, you can easily take, now you know the interest rate is 11% and the 1 to 5 period, no? So 1 to 5, this is the n, that means n equals 5, r equals 11, right? Now you can take the annuity factor for that as 3.696, right? 3.696. Here the r is 11% and n is 5, right? 1 to 5 means n is 5. You can take the cash flows and as a annuity, this is the annuity value, and into annuity factor, this is annuity factor, or else we can say that cumulative discounting factor, right? You can easily take this one from the annuity table, make මෙන්න මේ discounting factors වල එකතුව තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. අපි ඒක කලින් කතා කරා මේ සමුච්චිත අගය, මේ discounting factors වල සමුච්චිත අගය තමයි annuity table එකේ පෙන්නන්නේ. Now instead of calculating these discounting factors together, we can easily take this annuity factor from the annuity table. Annuity table එකෙන් මේක ගන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. Easily ගන්න පුළුවන්. Then you can take the present value of all 5 years. Now the NPV would be 1568, right? The answer is same, right? Hope you clearly got the point. Okay, think if the question is given to calculate the net present value for mutually exclusive two projects, right? මෙතන projects දෙකක් තියෙනවා කියලා හිතන්න ළමයි. Project A and B. Project A and B. You need to calculate the present value, net present values for project A and project B. මෙතන NPV, මෙතනත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ NPV එක calc කරන්න ඕන, මෙතනත් NPV එක calc කරන්න ඕන. Those two projects are mutually exclusive projects. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට මේ දෙකෙන් එකක් තමයි select කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. Right? Think that the project A, after calculating the net present value of project A, think that it's about 20,000 as an example, right? මෙතන හිතන්න NPV ආවේ plus 20,000 කියලා. And here after calculating the net present value for project B, you took as the net present value minus 14,000, right? Then what project you should be accepted? At what project you need to be accepted? කොයි එකද accept කරන්න ඕනේ එහෙනම්? This one. NPV ධනාගය. NPV that give the positive amount, right? Positive NPV එකක් දෙන එක තමයි අපි accept කරන්න ඕන. මොකද එතන තමයි අපේ investment එකට cost of මේ investment එකට වඩා මේ cash flows වල amount එක වැඩි නම් තමයි අපිට ප්‍රතිලාභයක් එනවා කියලා තේරෙන්නේ. එතකොට net present value එක plus නම් අපි ඒක තමයි accept කරන්න ඕනේ rather than going for a project B. මෙහෙම හිතන්න, let's say in project A it's 20,000 and here the project B let's take 15,000 plus 15,000. Now කොයි එකද දැන් අපි select කරගන්න ඕන? Now we need to select the same as it is the project A. මොකද NPV ධනාගයනොත් වැඩිම අගය ගන්න එක තමයි අපි select කරන්න ඕන, right? Those things are related to the mutually exclusive projects. This is a make a mutually exclusive project එකක් නෙවෙයි, මේ එක project එකක්, එක investment එකක්. මේක මේ ආයෝජනය අපි තවදුරටත් මේ ආයෝජන ව්‍යාපෘතිය accept කරනවද නැද්ද කියලා බලන්නේ කොහොමද? NPV plus අගයක් ගන්නවා නම්, right? If you have mutually exclusive two projects or two or more projects, you need to look at the NPV value, right? net present value, check whether that NPVs take positive value or minus value. එහෙම නැත්නම් positive values ම ගන්නවා නම් ඒකෙනුත් වැඩිම අගේ තියෙන project එක තමයි we need to be we should be accept, right? Okay, here what does a net present value mean? This is a summary of a net present value. The net present value is a measure of the value in terms of today's money of the net benefit from a proposed investment, right? යෝජිත ආයෝජනයක ශුද්ධ ප්‍රතිලාභ වටිනාකම අද වටිනාකම් වලින් මයින් එක තමයි ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය කියලා කියන්නේ, right? The discount rate is the rate of return that will be sufficient to cover the cost of the organization's capital, right? මේ ව්‍යාපාරයේ ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය cost of capital, right? ඒක cover කරගන්න ආවරණය කරගන්න ප්‍රමාණවත් වන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය තමයි අපි මේ discounting factor එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් වට්ටම් අනුපාතය කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒකයි අපි අතනදී cost of capital එක වෙනුවට discounting factor කියන එක ගන්න. right? මොකද ව්‍යාපාරයේ ප්‍රාග්ධන පිරිවැය cost of capital එක ආවරණය කරගන්න ප්‍රමාණවත් වන ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය තමයි අපි discounting factor එක විදිහට ගන්නෙ. right? Then if an investment with a positive NPV goes ahead, it will add value to the organization because the value of its net returns will be more than are needed to satisfy the providers of capital of organization, right? සුද්ධ වර්තමානයේ ධන වටිනාකම සහිත ව්‍යාපෘතියක් අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා නම් ව්‍යාපාරයට එකෙන් අගයක් එකතු වෙනවලු. ඒ කියන්නේ ව්‍යාපාරයේ අගයට වටිනාකමක් එකතු වෙනවලු. and එහෙම වෙන්නේ ආයෝජනයෙන් උපයන ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන වටිනාකම ආයතනයේ ප්‍රාග්ධනය සැපයුවන්ගේ අපි අර කිව්වේ ඉන්වෙස්ටර්ස්ලා ඉන්නවනේ අර මුදල් සැපයුවන්ගේ ප්‍රාග්ධනය සැපයුවන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයට වඩා වැඩි අගයක් වීම තුළින් උත්පාදනය සිදු වෙන නිසා. In theory, the value of the organization should increase by the amount of the NPV if the investment goes ahead. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි theory එක අපි න්‍යායාත්මකව ගත්තොත් අපිට එන NPV value එක right ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගයට සමාන වටිනාකමකින් ව්‍යාපාරයේ අගයත් වැඩි වෙනවා. right? That's the meaning of that. Okay, moving on. Now we come to the last method that we are going to discuss under this topic, that is internal rate of return. අභ්‍යන්තර ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය, right? The internal rate of return method determines the rate of interest at which the NPV is equals to the zero. The internal rate of return is therefore the rate of return on an investment. What it means? අපි NPV අගය අපි අර කැල්කියුලේට් කරපු ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය බිඳුව වෙන තැන, right? ශුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය බිඳුව වෙන්නේ මොන වගේ තැනකද? The should NPV at what point that NPV become zero is that here the present values of cost and benefits are equal. As previous example, if we take that year 0 here and think that present value, right? Present value of cash flows year 0 එකේදී 28,000 නේ. මේක තමයි cost of investment, right? And there is year 1 to 5 අපි ගත්තොත්, right? Because අපි මේ දෙකනේ compare කරන්නේ. We will take the difference between the present we need to take the net total of these present values නේ. මේ ඔක්කොගෙම net එකනේ ගන්න. එහෙම නැත්තම් මං කිව්වා investment value එකයි අපේ අනිකුත් මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන්ගේ net value එකයි අතර difference එක තමයි NPV එක වෙන්නේ. Right? In here think that the 1 to 5 PV value is also same. PV values for coming 5 years also same to the cost of investment. Cost of investment එක 28,000 අවුරුදු 5 තුල අපිට ලැබෙන මුදල් ප්‍රවාහයන්ගේ වර්තමාන අගයත් 28,000. Then the NPV should become 0. NPV 0 වෙනවා. No any plus figures, no any minus figures. මෙන්න මේ NPV 0 වෙන තැනදී අපේ rate එක discounting factor එක or the rate මෙන්න මේ rate එකට අපි කියනවා internal rate of return. Right? That's the things that explain in here as well. The internal rate of return method of evaluating investments is an alternative to the NPV method. NPV method එකකිනුයි මේකිනුයි දෙකම බලන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේක alternative method එකක් විකල්පයක්. සුද්ධ වර්තමාන අගය ක්‍රමය වෙනුවට භාවිතා කරන්න පුළුවන් විකල්ප ක්‍රමය. Right? The NPV method of discounted cash flow determines whether an investment earns a positive or negative NPV when discounted at a given rate of interest. This is the definition for NPV method. Right? NPV method එකේදී මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි බලනවා positive or negative cash flow එකක් calculate කරනවා at a given rate of interest. Discounted at a given rate of interest. If the NPV is 0, NPV 0 means that is the present value of cost and benefits are equals, right? The return from the project would be exactly rate used for discounting. මෙන්න මේ rate එක තමයි අපි discounting කරන්න ගන්න, right? Here the same thing I have explained in the very first beginning, right? The IRR method will indicate that a project is viable, right? That a project is viable. මේ project එක හොඳයිද නැද්ද? මේක තමයි decision rule එක. This is the decision rule for IRR. If the IRR exceeds the minimum acceptable rate of return, right? අපි calculate කරන internal rate of return එක, right? Internal rate of return එක is higher than the minimum acceptable rate of return. Rate of return. If the IRR exceeds or higher than to the acceptable rate of return, that project is viable to continue, right? එතකොට IRR එක acceptable rate of return එකට වඩා වැඩි නම්, right? Acceptable rate of return එකට වඩා වැඩි නම් අපිට ඒ project එක continue කරන්න පුළුවන්. Thus, if the company expects, this is an example for that, expect a minimum return of say 15%. Think that the company එකේ minimum return එක ඒගොල්ලෝ හිතනවා 15% කියලා. අපිට මෙච්චරවත් අවම වශයෙන් ඕන 15% return එකක්වත් ඕන. හැබැයි IRR එක suppose that IRR එක 20% ආවා කියලා. Let's say it's IRR, if after calculating the IRR rate would be 20%. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ acceptable rate එකට, ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතපු minimum rate එකට වඩා IRR එක වැඩි. එහෙනම් that project should be viable, that project is viable, right? Here it says the අපේක්ෂා කරන අවම ලාභ ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතයට, අපේක්ෂා කරන අවම ලාභ අනුපාතයට වඩා වැඩි අගයක් IRR සඳහා ලැබේ නම් එවැනි ව්‍යාපෘති පිළිගත යුතුය. අපි අපේක්ෂා කරන අවම ලාභ අනුපාතයට වඩා, අපි අපේක්ෂා කරන අවම ලාභ අනුපාතයට වඩා IRR එක අභ්‍යන්තර ඵලදායිතා අනුපාතය වැඩි නම් අපිට පුළුවන් ඒ project එක accept කරන්න, right? Okay. There are two methods to calculate IRR, right? Internal rate of return, අභ්‍යන්තර ඵලදායිතා අනුපාතය ගණනය කරන්න පුළුවන් ක්‍රම දෙකක් තියෙනවා. The first one is the graphical approach. Right? And the second method is interpolation method. Interpolation method, right? There are two methods, two ways to calculate the IRR. This is the first one, graphical approach, right? This is very simple, right? A useful way to estimate the IRR of a project is to find the project's NPV at a number of discount rates. අපි මෙහෙම graphical approach එකකින් එහෙම නැත්නම් ප්‍රස්ථාරික පිවිසුමකින් හොයනවා නම් අභ්‍යන්තර ඵලදායීතා අනුපාතය එහෙම නැත්නම් internal rate of return IRR එක calculate කරනවා නම් අපිට NPV එක හොයා ගන්න ඕන number of discount rates. මොකද අපිට එතකොට තමයි NPV බිඳුවේදී සුද්ධ වර්තමානයේ බිඳුවේදී IRR කීයද කියලා දැනගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. And sketch a graph of NPV against the discount rate. Right? Discount rate එක සහ NPV එක අරගෙන අපි graph එකක් අඳිනවා. You can then use the sketch to estimate the discount rate at which the NPV is equal to 0. That means the point where the curve cuts the discount rate. මෙන්න මේ discount rate එක මේ horizontal axis එක cut කරන තැන. ඒ කියන්නේ ඡේදනය වන තැන තමයි IRR අගේ වෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකද එතන තමයි NPV 0 වෙන්නේ. Let's take the example. In here a project might have following NPVs at the following discount rates. There are some number of discount rates, right? 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. අපි ප්‍රස්ථාරික පිවිසුමෙන් මේ IRR හොයනවා නම් ළමයි අනිවාර්යෙන්ම number of discount rates තියෙන්න ඕන. Right? මොකද අපි graph එකක් නේ අඳින්න යන්නේ. Then the question is given all the NPVs as well. Right? මෙහෙම දුන්න නැත්තම් මොකද්ද කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔයාලට? මේ වගේ rates තුනක් හරි දෙකක් හරි දුන්නොත් ඕගලන්ට පුළුවන් ඒ දෙක යටතේ NPV එක calculate කරගන්න. cash flows දීලා තියෙනවා නම් number of years දීලා තියෙනවා නම් number of periods දීලා තියෙනවා නම් years ගානයි මෙන්න මෙච්චර කාලයකට මෙන්න cash flows කියලා දීලා තියෙනවා නම් you can calculate the NPV because you know the NPV method. Then you can take the discount rates and NPV, you can easily sketch the graph, right? Here at the 5%, 5,300. Under 5% here, this is the horizontal axis, y axis is discount rate, and this is x-axis or the vertical axis that represent the net present value NPV, right? If we take 5% and 5,300 here, right? And under the 10%, the height is 400. Then if we take 10 and here 400. Saha under the 15% here 1,700 minus 1,700, right? Under the 15% එක minus යන්නේ එහෙනම් මෙන්න මේ හරිය, right? And under the 20% here this one, right? Those are the points we can sketch according to the given information, right? ඔහොම ඇන්දට පස්සේ then මෙන්න මේ discount rate මේ horizontal axis එක cut කරන තැන here in here, right? මෙන්න මේ horizontal axis එක ඡේදනය කරන තැන තිරස් අක්ෂය ඡේදනය කරන තැන තමයි here the NPV is 0. Look at this. Here this one is NPV, no? NPV බිඳුව වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ rate එකේදී. එහෙනම් approximately we can take it as the 11%, right? Estimated here the 11%. අපිට මේක approximately ගන්න පුළුවන් 11% කියලා. 10ට පොඩ්ඩක් එහාට වෙන්නනේ තියෙන්නේ. Right? එහෙනම් the IRR for this question for this project is 11%. Right? මෙහෙම තමයි graph එකෙන් graphically we can we can take the IRR, right? Now we will move to the second method, that is interpolation method, right? That is interpolation method. In order to calculate the IRR under the by using interpolation method, there is a formula for that, right? Here, look at the first explanation. Using the interpolation method, the IRR is calculated by first of all findings the NPV at each of two interest rate, right? මේ interpolation method එක use කළා අභ්‍යන්තර ඵලදායිතා අනුපාතය calculate කරන්න නම් අපිට at least we need two interest rates, right? Ideally one interest rate should give a small positive NPV, right? One interest rate should give a small positive NPV. That means NPV should be positive. එක interest rate එකකින් NPV positive වගේක් දෙන්න ඕන. And other a small negative NPV. අනිත් එක NPV negative වගේක් දෙන්න ඕන. ශුද්ධ වර්තමානගය ධනවන සහ ශුද්ධ වර්තමානගය ඍණවන interest rates දෙකක් තියෙන්න ඕන මේ interpolation method එක යටතේ IRR calculate කරන්න නම්. Right? Then the IRR would then somewhere between these two interests, right? It's obviously you can see that here the NPV is මෙතන තියෙන NPV ඍණ වෙන interest rate එකක්, මෙතන තියෙන NPV ධන වෙන interest rate එකක්, right? මේ දෙක අතර. Now NPV 0 වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ දෙක අතර rate එකකට. Right? මේ පැත්ත ධන නම් මේ පැත්ත ඍණ නම් NPV here the NPV is 0. Right? If we takes here like this, right? Here NPV is minus, here NPV is plus, the NPV is 0 at this kind of point. මේ වගේ මේ දෙක අතර තියෙන මැද point එකකදී තමයි NPV 0 එන්නේ, right? එහෙනම් මෙන්න මෙතනට එන interest rate එක තමයි IRR වෙන්නේ, right? Now we are going to calculate and one thing is there, right? Above the rate where here it says the IRR would then be somewhere between these two interest rate. Above the rate where NPV is positive මේකට වඩා වැඩි අගයක් සහ but the below the rate where the NPV is negative. Now in here it says another important point. However, it is possible to use two positive values or two negative values to extrapolate the IRR. දැන් හැම වෙලේම ළමයි ප්ලස් එකකුයි මයිනස් එකකුයි එන්නේ නැහැනේ. දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට NPV තියෙන්න පුළුවන් that gives two positive values or else that gives two negative values. ඒ වෙලාවේදී අපි කරන්නේ interpolate කරන්න නැතුව extrapolate කරනවා. Right? I'll explain how we can do that. Before that මේ වෙලාවේදී මේක අමතක කරන්න, right? How we can extrapolate that. We are going to use the interpolation method to calculate the IRR, right? Here the IRR, here this is the formula for to calculate the IRR under the interpolation method, right? Interpolation method එක යටතේ calculate කරන්න මෙන්න මේක තමයි අපි use කරන formula එක. This one IRR equals to percentage A, right? A%, that means A is one interest rate, right? Because we have two interest rates no to calculate the IRR under the by using interpolation method. එහෙනම් මෙතන A කියන්නේ එක interest rate එකක්, B කියන්නේ other interest rate එක. මෙතන මේ B කියලා මෙන්න මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ අනිත් අපි use කරන අනිත් interest rate එක and NPV A is NPV at a rate A. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ NPV A කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ rate A එක යටතේ අපි ගන්න NPV එක කීයද? Then we need to here the take we should take difference NPV at a rate A and NPV at a rate B. NPV B කියලා කියන්නේ B rate එක යටතේ NPV එක කොච්චරද? එහෙනම් A% වලට එකතු කරන්න ඕන මෙන්න මේ කොටස. ඒ කියන්නේ NPV A rate එක යටතේ NPV එක අරගෙන ඒක බෙදනවා the difference of the NPVs. ඒ කියන්නේ NPV rate එක A යටතේ සහ NPV rate එක we need to take the A% and we need to add අපි ඒකට එකතු කරනවා NPV at the rate A, right? This should be divided by the difference between the NPV at a rate A and the NPV at a rate B. NPV rate A එක යටතේ කියන්නේ A% එක යටතේ A අනුපාතය යටතේ A rate එක යටතේ එන NPV එකෙන් NPV එක calculate කරනවා rate එක B යටතේ ඒක අඩු කරනවා සහ එන ගාන අපි NPV ශුද්ධ වර්තමානගේ at a rate of A we need to divide it by this difference. මේ difference එකෙන් බෙදනවා. බෙදලා ඊට පස්සේ එන එක we need to multiply by the difference between the rates. B ඒකේ මුලින්ම අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ B එකෙන් A එක. right? rate B එකෙන් rate A එක අඩු කරලා එන percentage එකෙන් ඒක multiply කරනවා. right? In here the same example carry out here using the information from the graphical approach. Example above, that means here this one. මේකම අපි ගත්තොත් මෙතනදී අපි ගන්න ඕන rates දෙකක්. කොහොමද අපිට ලේසි වෙන්නේ ගත්තොත් plus එකයි minus එකයි. plus NPV එකක් දෙන එකකුයි minus NPV එකක් දෙන එකකුයි rates දෙකක් ගන්නවා. Then we can in here we can for our convenience we can select these two interest rates. Here because here under the 10% it gives plus NPV and under the 15% it gives minus NPV value. Then we will move on to our example to a interpolation method. Then we know under 10% we take the 10% and 15%, right? 10% and 15%. Now we are going to calculate. Here we need to take all the information first, right? A that is we can take A as 10%, right? A is 10%. මතකයි නේද අපි ගත්ත figures දෙක 10% වලදී NPV එක 400යි, that means 400,000, and here 15% the minus, right? Okay, now A is 10%, B is 15%. ඒක A B ගන්න එක issue එකක් නෑ ළමයි. අපි මුලින්ම positive එක ගමු A එක විදිහට, right? A 10%, B 15%. Now NPV at rate A, right? NPV එක මෙන්න මේක යටතේ NPV එක. These are the NPVs no. net present value no. NPV එක එතකොට කීයද? 400,000. Now NPV at rate B 700,000. Now we have all the information. Now we are going to calculate it. Here this is the formula. Now you can take first the percentage A, that means 10%. Now you need to add here the NPV at rate A. rate A එක යටතේ NPV එක කොච්චරද? 400,000. This should be divided by the difference between these two values. ඒ කියන්නේ NPV rate A එක rate A එක යටතේ NPV එක සහ rate B එක යටතේ NPV එක අතර difference එකෙන් බෙදන්න ඕන. right? And you need to multiply this one from the difference between these two rates, that means 5%, no? Right? Then you need to easily take the 5%. Right? Now you can by solving this formula, you can take here the answer is given 10.95%. This is the answer for, this is the IRR under the interpolation method, right? This is almost equal to the 11%. අපි අතන graphical approach එකෙන් ගත්ත කීයයි කියලාද 11ක් approximately. අපි එතන අපිට හරියටම අපි ප්‍රස්ථාරයෙන් හරි ප්‍රස්ථාරයක ඇඳපු නැති නිසා අපිට 11%, ඒ කියන්නේ the answer would be the 10.95%. ඒ කියන්නේ IRR එක NPV 0 වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ rate එකේදී. මේ දෙකම අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සමාන වෙන්න ඕන. Right? Here we have taken this under the graphical approach, we have taken this rate as approximate value, not the exact value, right? Here this is the exact value, now we can prove it. Ne? Okay. Here there is a question, the net present value of an investment at rate 18 is 14 million rupees, right? And at 14% is minus 5 million, right? මෙතනදී දෙකම දීලා තියෙන්නේ minus වලින්. අර plus minus නෙමෙයි. අර ඔයගලන්ට මතක ඇති අපි IRR method එක කතා කරන දැනම කතා කරා මේ වගේ important තැනක් මේ වගේ වැදගත් තැනක් එන්නත් පුළුවන්. අපිට එක්ක ධන NPVs two values gives NP plus NPVs, right? එක්ක මේ වගේ දෙකම ඍණ වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? Then required calculate the internal rate of return of this investment to the nearest whole number. Internal rate of return එක cal කරන්නලු. Here the answer is there. I will explain how it become this IRR, how it get, right? This in this example, right, here let's see take the NPV here and the discount rate here, right? This is the point where NPV is 0. Now if we take 14% and 18%, right? Under the 14%, the NPV value is, it's also minus under the two in here given two interest rate, the NPV values are negative, right? Here the 14%, it's 5,000. Let's say take by removing 1,000 values, if we take simply 5,000, right? But under the here, but under the 18%, right? Let's see take here, right? It's this minus 14,000, right? That means 14 million, right? The point is here. Now if we draw a graph, right, here the graph is going like this way, right? Then the IRR would be there. IRR එන්නෝනේ මෙන්න මෙතනට. ඒ කියන්නේ NPV 0 වෙන තැන. එහෙනම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ IRR එක 14% වලට වඩා අඩු rate එකක් වෙන්න ඕන. Right? That's why it's explained here. The IRR in this example is less than 14, right? Less than 14 because the NPV is still negative when discounted at 14% per annum. The heart percentage එකේදීත් minus ඒක 14 වෙනකොටත් minus. ඒ කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම 14ට වඩා අඩු වෙන්න ඕන IRR එක, right? It can be estimated using extrapolation, not the interpolation. The method is interpolation actually in here because the question is given minus 2 negative NPVs, right? 2 negative NPVs, therefore we need to extrapolate to estimate the IRR. Extrapolate එකේදී වෙන්නේ ළමයි මෙතනදී basically minus ආවොත්, right? Basically වෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? මෙන්න මෙතන චුට්ටක් change වෙනවා, right? Previously we have taken NPV at a rate A minus NPV at a rate B. Now in order to extrapolate we need to change these two figures, right? NPV rate at NPV at a rate B and NPV at a rate A, right? Others are same as it is, right? In here you can take the where the A is 14%, that means the A, we can take this one, the අපි වැඩිම එකනේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගන්න, අපි අතන්දිත් ගත්ත වැඩිම NPV එකක් කෙන එක rate A විදියට, and rate B as 18%, right? මේක 18%. NPV at a rate A is here 5,000 or the 5 million rupees, and NPV at a rate B is 14,000 or the 14 million, right? Here now we have all the information to calculate the IRR. The only difference we have made here is the changing of these two figures according to the previous one. කලින් එකේ විදිහට මේ දෙක change කරා. මෙන්න මෙතන difference එක ගන්න කොටස විතරයි change කරන්නේ. Because we need to extrapolate, right? Here you need to take the rate A, right here 14%, and you need to take here the NPV at a rate A. මෙතන වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නෑ ළමයි, right? මෙතන වෙනස් වෙනවා මොන අවස්ථාවේදීද? ධන එක, ඒ කියන්නේ positive NPVs දුන්නොත්, right? positive NPV දෙකක් ආවොත් මෙතනට අපිට එතකොට change වෙන එකම තැන තමයි මෙතන NPV at a rate B තමයි අපි ගන්නෙ. But in here, if the question is given two negative values for NPVs, right? The only difference between with the previous one is this one, the difference between these two, right? This one is same as it is. Rate A එක යටතේ NPV එක මෙච්චරයි 5000යි, right? 5 million, sorry, million 5යි සහ rate මෙතන rate B එක යටතේ එක තමයි මුලින්ම ගන්න ඕන, right? rate B එක යටතේ 14,000 or sorry 14 million, and rate A එක යටතේ 5 million. You need to take the difference between these two and should be divided by NPV at a rate A should be divided by this difference value, and take the difference between the rates, right? B minus A, right? And you need to take here the difference between two rates. It's same as it is as the previous. මේ එකක්වත් වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ ළමයි extrapolate කරද්දි මෙතනදි වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මෙතන මේ difference එක විතරයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ. අපි කලින් පාර ගත්තේ NPV rate A යටතේ NPV එකෙන් rate A යටතේ NPV එකෙන් rate B යටතේ NPV එක අඩු කරපු එක. But in here we need to extrapolate, so we need to exchange these two, right? Only difference is that, right? ඒක විතරයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ, අනිත් කිසිම දෙයක් වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? You need to take the difference between these two, 18, and this is the B, no? This is B, this is A. Now you can take the IRR as 11.8%, right? Okay, this is all about the interpolation method, right? You can further study this one, right? Then the answer would be C, right? Okay, here finally, what does the IRR of an investment mean? It was explained previously that in theory the value of an organization should increase by NPV of the investment that is undertakes. We have discussed this one, assuming that only investment with the positive NPV are selected. අපිට positive NPV එකක් ආවොත් අපි දන්නවා organisation එකේ value එකත් ඒ NPV වටිනාකමින් වැඩි වෙනවා කියලා we have discussed. The IRR of an investment is a measure of return that the investment is expected to achieve, right? investment එකකින් expect කරන්නේ achieve කරන්න අපිට ළඟා කරගන්න අපේක්ෂිත return එක, right? ප්‍රතිලාභය තමයි IRR එකෙන් may explain karan, right? Now if the IRR is more than the organization's cost of capital, organization's cost of capital කියන්නේ අපි කතා කරා නේද organization එකට තියෙන පුළුවන් minimum rate of return එකක්, acceptable minimum rate of return එකක්, අවම ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතයක්. අන්න ඒ අවම ප්‍රතිලාභ අනුපාතය, that means another word cost of capital, organization's cost of capital, the investment should go ahead. අපේ IRR එක, right? IRR that we have calculated is higher than or exceeds the organization's cost of capital. Organization's cost of capital, right? That investment should be go ahead. This is the decision rule of IRR. However, unlike the NPV of investment, the IRR does not provide a measure of how much value the investment will create. මෙතන අපි IRR එකේදී අභ්‍යන්තර ඵලදායිතා අනුපාතයේදී ළමයි value of investment එක අපිට නැහැ. create කරන value of investment එක අපිට ගන්න බෑ. ඒක අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් NPV එකෙන් විතරයි, right? A project with an NPV of rupees 1 million and IRR of 15%, right? NPV of rupees 1 million plus 1 million and IRR is 15% is more valuable than a project with an NPV of 100,000 rupees and the IRR of 25%. The project with the higher NPV will create more value by 900,000 rupees even though it has a lower IRR. If we compare these two, IRR and NPV, right? IRR 15% වෙන project එකක හිතන්න NPV එක 1 million, right? And IRR එක 25% වෙන project එකක NPV එක 100,000, right? The project with the higher NPV will create more value. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මෙතන IRR එක හිතන්න නැතුව, right? We need to take into consideration of net present value because it creates more value. That means 900,000 than this one, right? It creates more value to the organization. මේ ප්‍රමාණයෙන්ම organization එකේ value එක වැඩි වෙනවා මේ project එක නිසා. So even though it has a lower IRR, මේකට IRR එක අඩුයිනේ, මෙතන 25% දෙනවානේ, then it's better we can select this project as to continue the project, right? Okay, this is the end of this chapter, that is long term decision making. I hope you will get clear understanding about this chapter and thank you so much.